look at the wonder of existence.
Well, we're supposed to just spend our times in the wonder of existence. Oh, look at that. That's pretty cool.
You're supposed to acknowledge it.
You know, basking that for the rest of my life.
So you should acknowledge the wonder of it.
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, and I think by the sheer calculation alone of the immense sizes of the suns and solar systems and all the rest of it, the distance to planets, I think that's a wonderment in its own. But the idea that science rules out, religion is, I don't agree. Science, scientists might not be believers, but many of them are, and the idea that science deals with what they can understand, and what they can, they open the door.
I'm not pitting science against religion. What I'm pitting against is science helping people to believe there is no spirit or divine nature.
Well, there is no evidence for it, Don.
I know, but that's your problem. You want evidence.
Right.
You want the wrong
type of
evidence.
Why would I believe in something because it feels good? I mean, what the fuck?
Which rational person would not want evidence? Which rational person would believe something from a gut feeling?
Yeah, and I think there's twofold. You have your own, all religions teach you have your own free will to believe, and the idea that you don't want to believe because you haven't been compelled to, versus people with faith have their reasons to do so, and you can't rule out their choice if they're giving you yours. So I still don't think you're really touching on anything that kind of hinders your daily life. Vaccines,
no, absolutely not.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, these are bad examples.
Yeah, just
your examples.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, my reaction to them. They're a little. They're like, for example,
I disagree with that. People with faith. You said people with faith have their reasons to. Well, usually faith is what people are providing when they don't have good reasons to believe something.
No, I think faith,
faith is
the journey more than a decision.
Faith is the excuse when people don't have good reasons to believe something. When I'm using faith and I find out I find out that I'm using faith, I stop believing it. And I would regard that as a rational behavior.
But I think
sorry. Can I just say one thing?
More than that, I really do.
Can I say one thing? That could just try to change the subject, but when Slick says that what's causing gravity, is the weight of the object. Well, no, one last point. That is a belief because he believes that's that. We believe it's this. That is
we know that, right?
Okay, cool. Go back to religion then. Sorry.
Yeah. So
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Brommy. Did you want to engage Slick again?
So we've got.
Definitely not.
You got these ideas, Dawn, that we're trying to put them in the category of detrimental. Science, it's detrimental to your life or health or whatever. And I still don't know. Like, for me, the limited science that I do understand to a layman's degree, it's not really affecting my life in any way. And my understanding of faith is each person walks their own path, and people do have their belief systems for their own reasons. But science, for me, on the whole, has made my life more, what's the word? Not so much enjoyable, but easier.
Yeah, I know
easier to navigate the days ahead.
I like science too.
Gas for my cooker, you know what I mean? Like gas for my heating, for my water. Right. All that stuff is based on someone understanding what's a safe level for pressure and all these different things that I don't even have to think about. I turn the switch on and my house lights come on, and I don't even have to worry about it. And I think it's.
You science people, you can't think of any belief systems that are quite big in the world and within humanity that are bad for people. There must be some you can name it. I can think of loads.
Yeah, but how about all the anything that ends up in hurting someone or infringing on someone's life, or those things are when you actually. Those are course correction moments where you need to have a moderation or a change. But the idea of a perfect world is ideal, wouldn't it? But you know,
right.
I don't know.
Let's look at, all right, instead of looking at the negatives, what about the positives of beliefs? We're just looking at the negative side. What about the positives?
Sure. Like beliefs, there is positives, sure.
Stops people from committing suicide, gets you laid, fucking makes you successful. You know,
you can blame anything, but what is something on like a stretch of faith that can benefit you, like a tough belief that isn't knowledge?
Here's the question: how do we attain knowledge, though?
That's faith, though. I think you're talking about faith rather than belief.
Yeah, but belief isn't always knowledge, is it? Sometimes it's just a thing.
Belief is based upon knowledge. The way I look at it, like
sometimes it's a thing you believe is true, and you haven't really checked at all.
Like religion. Religion's quite.
Yeah, like a lot of science as well, dude.
Not really, though. Not really.
There's loads of science that you've never ever checked.
I have some faith in some science, yeah, but I don't have. I have a lot of belief to you know, a lot of confidence in that belief.
You haven't checked.
We're talking over science. We're talking over a scientific. Because of science, we have communication over a Discord. This is the whole reason that we're talking this conversation. So
yeah, but this doesn't mean you know all of science, does it?
I don't know how fucking telecommunications work, but you know they work, and we're talking to each other, so it's evident, it's true.
You have to believe.
It's evident, because evidence is evidence-based. It's based upon evidence, not just belief or blind faith.
You're not saying all your beliefs are knowledge, are you?
I'm saying a lot of them are backed up by knowledge, and evidence and
a lot of them
that's how science works. Science is about repeating and being able to constantly fact check it, isn't it?
Don't you ever stretch your heart to a belief when it's not knowledge? Ever?
As I said, there's some things I have faith in, but not in science. Some things I do have faith in. But I have faith in my airplane driver that takes me on an airplane. I have faith in the airplane. I have faith in the physics, the science behind how airplanes work.
So how do you obtain knowledge? How do you obtain knowledge, though? How do you gain it?
Well, I think you just look at everything, and it becomes more and more true the more you look into it. So you can confirm it with science to make.
You can't conflate.
You can also just watch 3 documentaries and decide. I know that now.
Yeah, I think when you're trying. I personally don't believe that you can blur the two between science and knowing and understanding and faith, because we have all levels of faith in our life. Like for example, you have to go and meet a business for a business meeting, and you have to go and meet a whole bunch of people, including maybe the CEO of the company or something, and you've got to have faith in yourself that what you're gonna do and how you're gonna act. You can't control yourself before you are controlling yourself in the meeting, saying the right things, not stuttering, all the rest of it. And so I think there's levels of faith, but when it comes down to faith and science, I can never combine the two because they're two separate entities. I mean, the idea that it matters in that moment.
Let me give you an example. Like the edge of science, quantum entanglement, something like this. You don't know that's a thing, do you? You believe or you have an amount of trust or an amount of faith in the idea. If you do,
I wouldn't put faith into that. I mean, I know how you're using the faith, but
so you don't know it, but you think it might be true. There's an amount of belief kind of thing in the idea.
You cannot conflate trust with faith.
Yeah, of course you can.
I think when it comes to science and the science knows what they're doing or saying, or science has discovered this, for me, that's trust. Okay.
What's the difference between trust and faith then?
Well,
faith is complete trust without evidence, and even often with against evidence to the contrary.
Yeah. For me, faith.
I'd say that's the same with science. It will go from belief.
Faith, it will go from. That's how I would put it.
You'll know stuff in science, then you'll trust stuff, then you'll believe stuff, then you'll have faith in stuff.
Well, give us an example of where we get misled. You're saying
entanglement. That's the faith.
You're trying to say that we've been.
That's the faith. That's the limit.
Well, there is some sort of levels of faith, some things that we can't test. But what's the problem with that? Like, it's reasonable.
It's great to have faith in stuff.
It's reasonable. You're trying to say that religion is the same. You're trying to say religion is the same as science. It's just not the same, mate. Just simply, it's not.
Well, kind of bit. Yeah, I do think it's the same. I wasn't actually trying to say that right now, but
in a way you are. You're trying to say, well,
yeah, I do think there's have a lot of similar aspects when you believe.
Been told it.
It's not, Don, because faith in the religious context is absolute trust and belief without evidence.
Yeah,
Science,
like
hold on, nearly there. Science actually has a reasonable amount of belief based on evidence.
Yeah,
well,
exactly. That's right.
The black hole and quantum entanglement. I don't think you've got much evidence for this.
Oh, what about if you have a DNA test? If you have a DNA test, you're going to say, "Oh, it's just science telling me that it's my child. It's not really my child."
No,
using the mathematics.
So what are you saying then?
I'm saying when you believe something fully, and you haven't tested it, it's like a religion almost.
I want to respond to what you said because you just wrapped all of science into one possible theory of quantum entanglement.
No, I didn't.
Okay, there's not reasonable evidence for that yet. But the whole rest of fucking science, DNA, all of that, no, it doesn't take faith. We just don't have the evidence. We have this idea that it possibly could, the universe have quantum entanglement.
Belief in an idea. Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah, I think the idea of faith is when you expect nothing.
What about
nothing
this?
At all
what about this?
To reveal itself physically.
The multiverse.
But rather, along the journey, your faith, is enhanced, or you find a greater connection to and that's the thing. It's a one person's journey. I'm not going to sit here and tell almost 50 people the reasons that I have faith. Those are personal reasons for me, and at the same time, I accept those who don't see it my way or agree with me. But when it comes to science, it's my understanding, if it can't be tested, it can't be even calculated, then it's not even part of the equation. That theoretic physics is even based on numbers and everything like that.
You only really use faith for spiritual belief.
Yeah, for me, faith is like I don't even, when I write the word faith, I put a capital F, even though it's grammatically incorrect. I will still
say the scientism tards have a religion, even if you take the word faith off me and I can't use it.
But it doesn't, because a religion actually has parameters.
Yeah, but I'm using a different definition because
it has a strict definition and categories to be called a religion.
I'm breaking the definition here because, and I'll tell you why.
Well, guess what?
Over time, many times in different forms. Just because it doesn't have a church and a priest are the same, doesn't mean it's not one.
It doesn't have worship either.
Yes, it does. Have you seen people crying at SpaceX launches? Have you seen that? Oh my God!
Have I? No, actually, I haven't.
Everyone's crying. Everyone's crying. Oh my God! This is better than when my kid was born. Fucking look at it. That is worship.
One of the most powerful things I've ever seen in my life, man.
That was pretty good. That was pretty good. That was good.
But the funny thing is, no, it's not. Being excited and experiencing something more powerful, or just about as powerful as a fucking nuclear weapon, isn't worship.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
It's not worship.
Being excited about a rocket, fucking taking off for the first time and experiencing that. That's not.
It's not the same as worship. What you think, but I'm saying that's what replaces worship in my definition of religion for science.
Well, you don't get to change what parameters and definitions of words to fit your fucking narrative, Don. You just argued earlier, Don. You just argued earlier that we have a dictionary, that words have definitions with Slick earlier. Now to fit your own personal narrative, you want to say that you get to change
how I'm expanding the word.
No, sir, you don't. You don't get to change the definitions and the parameters of something to be considered a religion to fit your narrative.
I don't understand. Religion isn't one thing. It's a group of behaviors, kind of.
No, it's not.
Beliefs.
No, it's not. So
I'm expanding the idea to say this is a type of religion because it includes the same type of things.
Nobody gives a shit, Don.
Worship,
you could change the meaning.
On trust. Belief based on trust. I can hardly hear you, Rex. You're not going to argue very well for science.
Yeah, shut the fuck up because I am. You can change the meanings. You can change the meanings to suit yourself, but you can't change them to suit others.
I need to turn you up, maybe.
Well, turn it up then, you dumbass. What the fuck is wrong with you? How stupid do you need to be?
You're just quiet.
Remember, we have this book with words and they have definitions, and those definitions to meet what a religion is has parameters. You don't get to change that, Don, to fit your own fucking narrative, dude.
For my argument, I don't mind.
Yeah, but you change them for yourself, not for everybody else.
Your deity, is the Big Bang.
You can be ridiculously stupid, but not everybody else.
That's your deity.
No, that's actually fundamentally not true.
The absence of a deity as your deity.
Who was that? What the fuck are you talking about, dumbass?
The Big Bang cosmology now is our deity because there's actually, but the thing is, Don, there's evidence, so it can't be a deity.
Why on earth would anybody? Why would anybody on earth pray to that? Why?
Evidence
for what purpose?
Religion.
To gain what? I mean, we know you pray. You pray to mystics who are long dead.
Right. You just have to worship, I think.
I mean, you do that for no reason. Why would I do something for no reason?
Oh, there's good reason in all of this. It's fine.
Well, there isn't. You haven't defined any.
Just trying to attach the word religion to your belief system.
That's your only reason. That's your self-serving reason that applies to nobody. Don, stop talking all over everybody.
Type of behavior.
You worship the Big Bang. You sound like fucking Igor.
You're piping up because you know you're one of them. You went to the rocket launch.
No, wow. What does the Big Bang have to do with a rocket launch? You complete and utter fucktard.
It's the same model.
It's the same model?
He worked that into, worshiping because people that, according to him, and I haven't seen it, but according to him, there's been people that's, got overwhelmed and cried at their first experience of something that's almost as powerful as a fucking nuclear weapon going off.
That's because Don is a retard.
Right.
Plain and simple. He's an imbecile.
You nearly cried, Rex.
There's nothing to understand about Don. He's an imbecile.
Even if he did, it doesn't matter. That weeping at an event isn't fucking worship, dude.
Who wept?
No, it's not.
It is when you go to the football stadium and you cry. That's the worship of the team.
I've actually never done that, but okay. And no, it's not.
And no, that's not worship. You go to a wedding and cry. Is that worship? Oh my God! I'm worshiping I'm worshiping this institution of marriage. What are you,
bride and groom? Yeah. I'm worshiping the bride and groom. So you worship your sister when she gets married?
Well, they are up on an altar.
Oh yeah.
And you get excited about something like
excitement. That's worship.
That's worship.
Excitement isn't worship, Don.
I'll give you another example if you want. The moon landing on TV.
Stupid example, Don. Get a fucking dictionary, you dumbass.
Worship when you watch the moon landing on telly.
Worship when you watch the moon landing. You worship.
Like, these are really shit examples, Don.
You're a fucking idiot. You're the fucking poster boy for cardiorespiratory failure. You should worship a fucking... Hey, dumbass, you should worship a fucking cardiologist, you dying fuck. Worship a cardiologist, you dying fuck.
We all have religions. They revolve over time.
They don't. You have religions, and you have stupid ones.
Yeah, it doesn't fucking fit the parameters of what you think they do.
It doesn't fit your parameters. You don't understand what religion
is. Because there are parameters.
You know what it means? A religigara, to tie, to bind. This is what it means. You're tied and binded to the Big Bang and no God.
No, I'm not.
Infinite void with random sacred spheres and math that doesn't add up.
No. Except it does.
Yeah.
The math actually, the math actually add up because the mileage that I drive, because I know you hate it, Don, but the mileage that I drive and the mileage that I've traveled around the world like fucking twice actually add up according to the maps. The distances and directions actually add up.
No, that's because you worship
the whole cosmos.
That's because you worship gasoline.
I worship fossil
fuels.
Fuels.
Obviously. Why are you even looking at your odometer? You worship gasoline.
Pure worship's working for the man. That's what he worships.
You worship ridiculous stupidity.
So much that he forgot to go home.
No, Don, I actually go out and it works fine. I plan when I want to go home. I go home when I want to.
You worship the Big Bang.
That's bad that you're still not home then.
No, it's not.
Yeah, that means you've literally just admitted and chosen not to go home. Again.
So what?
Doesn't matter. Let's move on. I was just mocking you for it.
I know.
You should be home more.
It doesn't
Instead of arguing with me here about stuff you can't handle, I think you should go home.
Well, the thing is, I handle it just fine. When I want to go home, I go the fuck home.
Maybe you don't want to. That's the point.
Yeah, maybe he can do whatever the fuck he wants.
I can.
Arguing for scientism in his truck. Yeah, cool.
Well, no, actually, I'm in my hotel room because I'm already done for the day.
Same thing.
No, a truck and a hotel room are completely fucking different.
But you worship both of them.
In this context, dude.
Not in this context. Not in any context are they the fucking same thing.
Pure, how much are you charging for that hotel room? Is it $100 for 45 minutes?
No, it's about $600 a week.
Damn. How long are you going to blow dudes for?
Damn, she's cheap.
Yeah, it's about, with my military discount, it came up to about like $89 a night. No, not in this one. I got a bar down like 2 blocks over.
Let me think of another one. Let's move on to law. Law is a belief system and a cult that you've fallen for. It's a hoax. I'm talking about man's law. Any man's law.
What other law is there?
Natural law.
We obey natural law without even needing to think about it.
I can't really hear you, Rex.
Then maybe you should perk up your ears or shut the fuck up. Who gives a shit?
Everyone else is fine.
Just go pass out or something.
I'm running a bath.
Go pass out in the ditch. Pass out in the ditch behind your house again.
Don, what the fuck is that? What is natural law?
No, it's not about what natural law is. It's about man's law being a cult and a belief system that you fell for.
You were. It actually is. You were asked what other law is there. You said natural law. I'm asking you to define what you mean by natural
law. Is never thieving anything off anyone because nature has a balance system, and you shouldn't. That's it.
Well, that happens to be man's law.
That's it.
But that's man's law.
No, man's law's fucked.
No, man's law says you cannot steal.
Yeah, that's one part of it.
So
but
natural law tend to not be able to be broken, yet people steal. So how's that a natural
man's law is the cult and a belief system that you fell for that ruined your life.
No.
Made you a slave. Well, then you've got no right to let yourself be a slave.
So akin to natural law, maybe you fell for natural law.
You're harming other people by letting yourself be a slave.
You fell for natural law, dumbass. You can break those laws. How did you fall for that?
I know, it's anarchy. Of course you can break them.
It's natural anarchy.
It's free will.
So it's not a law at all.
You have to work it out, though.
So
no
it's not
man
a law
is
at all.
angel. No man should rule.
It's not a law at all, is it?
It is. It's natural law.
Well, if it can be broken, it's certainly not a natural law.
Consequence, self-defense.
Hey, Don. Then, if natural law is not thieving from something else, then why doesn't nature actually follow that fucking law? Because a lion will steal the fucking baby deer from
don't confuse it with Darwin's bullshit. Natural law. Well, no. Natural law is a cosmic consequence system for humans that was set up.
It's started with the Big Bang, which you obviously worship.
Animals.
It's a cosmic law. So you obviously. So why are we stealing the sun's rays?
It works everywhere in the universe. No harming another human.
How do you know? You haven't been anywhere in the universe. How do you know?
So simple.
How do you know? You've not been anywhere in the universe.
I just watched the documentary. That's all, and then I knew.
Nobody believes you.
You don't believe me because you're stuck in the system of law, man's law.
Well, guess what? Man's law applies to you too. Go ahead and break it.
I know, yeah. It's fucked, isn't it?
Go see somebody about that respiratory problem of yours.
He's killed Jesus. Well bad.
And so he deserved to die. Big deal. Lots of people got killed.
So actually, Don, everything fits, the parameters of being natural or, a part of nature, even the animal kingdom. And yet they still, will, in prides and packs and pods and all that stuff, steal the younger, weaker animal, food source for them. So why are they not following what you call this natural law?
It's not for them. Animals do a different thing. They live in harmonic chaos.
It's not for them. So who imposed this law?
It's not imposed. It's just part of the universe.
So who imposed it?
They're a part of the universe, Don. You can't just special plead this shit onto.
You know what natural law is? Have you got a rejection about man's law being a cult and a belief system?
In other words, it seems Don worships the Big Bang.
No. Exactly. I mean, I worship it if it's true. Yeah, in a way, I do.
There you go. End of conversation. You're an idiot. Goodbye.
But I do it through ancient means, not through phallic.
Ancient means? Like what? What ancient means?
Candle magic.
Old ways.
Candle magic.
I don't want to worship it through man's technology in the same way.
Well, so how do you do it? What do you throw fucking stones at a beehive? What do you do?
I don't know. I just think and try to be connected to the cosmos.
Think? You call that thinking?
Yeah.
Well, see, we definitely don't have the same definitions of shit.
What's your issue today, Rex? You just don't agree with me.
So, the ancient ways to just think about it. Wow.
No, what I mean is not using technology.
How did you discover that, Dawn?
I just have different methods.
Hey, dumbass, who are you lying to? You shoved a Ouija board up your ass.
I don't fully believe in the Big Bang, really, either.
Nobody gives a shit. Who fucking cares what you believe in? You're an imbecile.
What do you want to talk about then? You dated any cool men this week?
No, I'm in lockdown.
Sound cranky as well.
You fucking a fat bro.
Yeah, so
even the fat chicks won't have you. What's up with that? Even Riley's wife would be like, phew.
I think the word
only the butch lesbians, atheist, right?
The word fat, obviously.
Fat is an obese.
Subjective. Well, yeah, fat and obese. I don't know. I think so.
Hey, Rex, check the chat.
Yeah, that's about it. Ancient worship. I just think about it.
Let me ask you about the pyramids, Rex. Are they just a pile of rocks, or are they quite a well-designed structure for the time, at least?
Extremely well-designed structures of their time.
Right. Boom. These monks say they're a pile of rocks.
Well, they are in essence a pile of rocks.
Compared to some other buildings.
There's no natural law that states a pile of rocks cannot be well-designed.
Oh, I don't think a pile of rocks is a good description at all. That's my point.
Well, a brick house is essentially a pile of rocks too.
Yeah, that's what I tell them. You know what I mean? Like, they're big buildings that have a bit of metal in it.
You look at some
pile of metal and rock and glass, right?
Some early attempts at pyramids, some early ziggurats are really poorly designed. They collapsed in on themselves. Now they're truly a pile. They're a ramble and a haphazard pile of rocks.
Yeah, I've seen some shit once.
Pile of rocks does not necessarily mean a haphazard pile of rocks.
I think they're hiding history when they say this.
These stones were literally piled on top of one another.
Not the pyramid, but the big ones.
Yes, the Great Pyramids were actually all they are stacked upon one another. They're
stacked.
Yeah, stacked, piled. It doesn't matter whether they were
rocks. Though, so a stack of perfectly carved stones, I'll give you.
They're not perfectly carved. They're actually. I mean, they're decently, carved down into squares that are about 2,000 pounds, give or take.
Yeah, I mean, up close, they're really nothing to look at. Trust me.
Yeah.
But what made them back in the day, what made them magnificent, was they were covered with a sheen of sandstone. Is it sandstone? Just to make it look smooth as smooth stone. And it absolutely shone in the sun. But those days are long gone.
Yeah, it's funny. The smaller ones that surround it, that people actually take images where they can't be seen. But if you go around the backside, Don, there's a lot of smaller ones that literally have collapsed on themselves, and they are literally just a pile of rock now.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Some pyramids are piles of rock.
Yeah, they were not as it was kind of a trial and error thing. They lasted a while and they fell, and then they came up with a better technique to stack these rocks where it's lasted a metric fuck ton more. It's not rocket science, dude. I mean, to dry stack stone.
It would be absolutely simple if there weren't interior chambers.
I've got another one. Voting.
But the stone's big.
The belief system that you've fallen for, that's not real. Affects your life.
Well, what is it, dumbass?
It's nothing. There's no winning by ticking the box. They're both made up theatre teams.
Don, do you think facts can change?
So, by caring about politics, you've fallen for a belief system, like Slick says.
Hey, Don, do you believe facts can change, yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's funny when they do as well. Funny for Globers if a big fact changes.
I believe facts can change.
What about the distance to the sun? I always imagine if that's going to change again at some point. If we work out dark matter and dark energy, that might change the math. They have to announce on the news that the sun is now 22 trillion light years away.
Didn't the definition of a kilogram change?
You what?
The definition of a kilogram, didn't that change like recently, like last year or a few years ago?
Oh, I don't know. How can that change? 1,000 grams.
I believe the kilograms changed, the definition. Or was it something else that changed?
They're updating the metric system. This is red flag.
So Don, you really think that understanding what dark matter and dark energy is going to change the distance to the sun by like 800 million miles?
No, I'm joking. I'm saying it could change the math vastly, and that could be an example of a fact changing, a big one. And you lot would have to now believe the new fact.
Well, that would actually
you'd all be running around to try and understand the new math and do new measurements.
I don't think that the math
pretending that you've done a measurement, even though you just read a paper about someone that pretended to do one.
Well, no, they actually still do it at Stanford University. They still do the radar ranging to the sun. It's not that they did it once. They did it in 1964, and they've continued to do it through like 2011. I think was the last time that they
tried to do this. I do believe you.
Well, no, it's not that they try to do it. They have done it.
All right.
It's a wonder they can get any work done amidst all their religious rituals that surround the sun.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Yeah, an idiot like Don would believe that.
Sun worship goes back to the beginning. You know this, Rex.
Yeah, of course. So what?
So we're still there, right?
Yeah. Well, some people go to the beach all the time. They're not necessarily worshiping the sun, but I'm pretty partial to the sun. At the same time, why would you worship the sun? It's going to rise every day in the east, whether you worship it or not.
You know, there's different forms of worship.
Not according to you, dumbass.
Yeah, I said there was.
Suddenly there's different forms of worship.
I said this.
Suddenly there's all different forms. You were lumping them all together. Now there's all different forms. Do you really have any set of beliefs?
You lost me.
Do you have any idea who the fuck you think you are?
I said there's different forms, but they're all worship.
But they're all worship.
They're the same thing.
No, they're not. They're all different forms, but they're the same thing.
Yeah. You've seen the difference between a Muslim and a Jew and a Christian, right? Different shit. And an atheist scientist does another thing.
Why did you lump in atheists with scientists? I mean, thank you, but...
Well, they're usually the similar ideology.
I mean, thank you for awarding me the grand position of being, just a pragmatic thinker.
No, I call everyone.
It doesn't automatically come with the turf.
All of these denialists, I call them all atheists as an insult.
What do they deny? They deny your dumbassery?
Spirit and the divinity of existence.
Well,
the universe.
Give me some evidence for that, and we'll stop denying it.
You are the evidence.
No, I am not the evidence.
You asking me for evidence is the evidence.
Dumbass, I'm quite corporeal.
This is it. You understand it. You've already been through all this with loads of people.
I know. Well, if you can't explain it, how's anybody supposed to understand it?
And you can't talk about it without defining what you mean with divinity.
Extra value meal in 1991.
What do I mean by divinity? The godly part.
And so the graveyards are full of all these godly parts, huh?
And
yeah, reality.
What is the definition of that God?
The definition of that God. Oh God, this is hard.
I'll give it a go if you don't want to.
It's the cause of your reality, my reality, shared reality.
We don't share reality.
Does that sound like you want to argue for God with me? Go for it.
No, I was just... And I'm not soundly.
God is the mind that resides outside of nature and created it. He's the initial cause.
Why is he relegated to outside of nature?
Well, you can't create something if you're part of it.
Why not? You can build a house and then live in it.
I didn't say he's not living in it. I'm not saying he's not present in it. I'm saying
you said he's outside of nature. What do you expect me? How am I supposed to take that?
Well, he's outside of it. He's not dependent upon it. He existed prior to it.
So he can come and go as he pleases.
Right, exactly.
And how do you know that?
He's omnipresent, though.
Oh, how do you know that? So he's everywhere at all times.
You asked for a definition. You didn't say how I knew it.
Okay. Well, how did you come by the definition?
There had to be an initial cause, and then that cause had to be intelligent and creative. Yeah. But based on what exists.
By what compelling did there have to be?
Well, he created the laws that resulted in the structures that exist in our reality. That's a creative thing.
I would disagree with that already.
If you want to bike shed about pronouns, you can, Atheist Rex, but that's completely irrelevant to the point.
If it's an entity, wouldn't it be more correct to say it?
Okay.
Or they.
Again, if you want to bike shed about pronouns, it's fine.
Well, pronouns are insight to your thinking.
No, they're not. They're not at all.
When you knee jerk say he,
if you want to say she, I didn't knee jerk. If you want to say she or it, that's fine. Go ahead.
Well, I don't want to say either of it. I don't want to say any of it. I'm asking you for something, and you're giving me he.
Who's knee jerking?
You.
No, I didn't. You are. You're in a hissy fit about pronouns right now.
And so it had to be created. That's not knee jerk. Did you come up with that yourself?
No, I mean I've read other people, obviously.
Other people. You mean that's pretty much the going phrase. The going line with every.
You don't have to like it or agree to it. But in my mind, a negative.
It's not a matter of what I like. You see, it's
a matter of an infinite amount of time into the past doesn't make any sense. So at some point, this entire universe had to be created and had to exist, and because of the rules. How do you
know what makes sense or not in the universe?
I know it makes sense to me.
Well,
and how do you know that it has to be created?
That's the only thing. That's the only thing that makes. That's the only thing that's self-consistent in my mind.
So you can imagine nothingness. Is that right?
Can I imagine nothingness?
Yeah.
Sure.
Really? How? Just that makes more sense than perpetuity.
Yes.
What is nothingness?
Explain to me how you can travel an infinite amount of time into the past.
And then
Atheist Rex.
Then where did your vast creator intellect come from?
Atheist Rex. Explain to me how you can travel an infinite amount of time into the past.
I don't know that you can.
You can. If you would have ever, if there's an infinite amount of time in the past, then we would have never arrived at the current moment.
That's not. Why is that so?
It's just self-consistent and self. I mean, it's just.
That is a straw man.
No, it's an axiom. It's self-evident that you can't. It's self-evident that you can't travel into an infinite amount of time into the past. That's self-evident.
Misrepresentation.
It's not a misrepresentation at all.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes,
No one said this universe was eternal. Number one. Number two.
Okay, if it's not eternal, if it's not eternal, then we agree. That had to have begun. If it begun, it began from nothing.
No, nobody's assuming that either. Now, where did your? I'm going to ask
another straw man.
It's not a straw man at all.
The question that's being begged here is, where'd your God come from?
God didn't come from anywhere. It's not a begging question.
Well, then
God created time.
I asked, well, what begat your God?
There's no begatting something that resides outside of time.
Well,
that is another fallacy called special pleading.
It's not special pleading.
Yes, you're making.
You can't create something. You can't. No, it's not. You cannot create something without time.
How your theology
there has to be a cause that creates a thing. That thing cannot. The thing that created the first event has to reside outside of time.
We don't know this has to reside outside of time.
It's the only thing that's self-consistent. Atheist Rex. It's the only explanation that's self-consistent. You have no explanation for infinite amount of time in the past. The only explanation that is self-consistent, the only explanation that's ever been given that's self-consistent is the one I'm giving you right now.
And where did it come from?
It came from reasoning.
Oh, okay. No, not your explanation. I don't know where. Since you seem to know it all, where did this creator deity come from? It was just always there.
Again, you're creating a fallacy here by not understanding.
You've already
by not understanding that
fallacies. I'm just
the creator deity. Stop talking and listen for a second. You might learn.
First, you imagine nothingness.
Try and comprehend for a second, Atheist Rex. Atheist Rex, try and comprehend for a second instead of filling the void with your words.
How does your deity arise?
I've already explained it. He resides outside of time. He created time.
And how do you know any of this?
It's the only thing that's self-consistent.
Really, it's the only thing, and you've explored every other option.
It's the only explanation that's self-consistent that I've ever heard of or ever read.
That doesn't matter. It's not the argument from
ignorance now. It's the only argument you've ever heard.
I'm not arguing from ignorance. I'm not arguing from ignorance. I'm telling you what I believe. He asked me what I believe. This is what I believe. Why? Because it's the only thing that's self-consistent in my mind. Am I trying to prove to you definitively? Am I trying to come up with a deductive argument to prove to you that God exists? No.
Yes.
I'm not. Nobody can. No, I'm not.
That's what you should be admitting. That's what you should be admitting from the start. It's merely your belief.
Atheist Rex, I've admitted that a bazillion times on this server. How many more times do I need to say it?
Look, I'm not on the server 24/7 listening, hanging on your every fucking word.
Well, instead of putting intentions in my mouth, maybe you should criticize what I mean instead of what you think I mean.
Your intentions are clear. So this vast creator intellect is going to boil down to Jesus Christ, isn't it?
We haven't even gotten there.
Yeah, you go ahead and deny the Lord and Savior right here in public. Go ahead.
No, I'm not denying the Lord and Savior, but we haven't gotten there. Why are you jumping in there?
Just the other day, you told me you weren't religious.
I did not tell you I wasn't religious. I have faith, but I'm not a part of a particular doctrine.
That's called religion, dog.
Having faith is not called religion. No.
You have a particular faith, don't you?
I don't follow a particular well-known doctrine.
You most certainly do.
I don't.
Go ahead. I dare you to deny your Lord Christ Jesus.
No, I'm not denying.
This is kind of weird. You're telling him what he believes. That's like Chemo's job. Tell us what we believe.
This is what Atheist Rex does. It's because he's a fundamentalist atheist. He doesn't allow for other people to have different beliefs.
There's no such thing.
You are it. There is one.
There's no such thing.
You are the definition of it, Rex.
And you, like all flat earthers, try to deny your Lord and Savior, but you can't do it. Can't do it in public anyway.
I don't deny my Lord and Savior at all. What are you talking about?
It's just part of the concept. That is the Lord and Savior.
You wanted to jump from why I personally believe there's a God and why that seems self-consistent to me, why it is a faith that I believe, but why I think it's the best explanation. You want to jump from that to something that you don't like. You don't like Christ. Well, okay, fine. Go ahead and do that. That's all. You can do that all you want, but all that does is speak to your motives. All that does is speak to your motives, not mine. I'm telling you what I believe through faith. I'm not trying to deductively prove anything to you. I'm trying to give you an argument for why I believe what I believe, because it seems to me like the only self-consistent explanation for where our reality started.
Why would I not like Jesus Christ?
Rex, come on, let him talk.
In the New Testament.
The reason you're not doing that is because you can't explain it properly. That's why you don't do it.
No one can. That's
could I not accept anything based on?
Yes, you can have faith. It's okay. We have faith in a lot of things in life. You don't have to deductively prove everything. As a matter of fact, you can't deductively prove anything except for mathematics. So what's the point of trying to say?
So your religion based on faith, and a Hindu and a Muslim accept their religion also based on faith. So one of these faiths must be wrong, right?
All of them could be wrong.
Right. All of them could be wrong. There could be true aspects of each of them. We don't know. We're ignorant human beings. We have no idea.
When they are internally contradictory.
What's that?
Then when they are internally contradictory, then all could be wrong, right?
Correct.
Okay. You look for the differences. The devil is in the differences. The differences are what make the difference.
Any Christian that can't accept that their religion could be wrong is living in a delusion. Like they're living in self-denial. All I can say is that it seems to me that the most likely story is that there is a God and that Jesus Christ was in fact a deity, or was in fact like a superpowered human being. And he specifically gave specific doctrines. Jesus Christ gave specific teachings that, to me, are different than the law that the Jewish law that everything else came from up to that point.
And is it possible
he fulfilled that law, and we have a New Testament now? That's why it's called the New Testament.
And is it possible that everything you just said just now could be wrong?
Sure.
You could be mistaken about it.
Absolutely.
That you could deny your Lord and Savior.
No, I'm not denying my Lord and Savior.
It's funny how you mentioned the three religions and all of them have a one God.
Hinduism doesn't necessarily
have God isn't the same.
Hinduism started with the Brahman, and then over two sects, not agreeing, then they divided into multiple gods. But in the beginning of Hinduism, it was one God.
So
Jesus spoke to the Father, and Islam speaks to the Father that Jesus spoke to.
Then you have to find the points where they diverge.
I think it's fair for you to say that you feel like this is the only consistent viewpoint, but I think for you to say it's the only one without having explored possible alternatives is kind of
it's the only one that I've been aware of, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't mean
I think it's fair for you to say that that's the one that you find most compelling.
Exactly. There you go. That's
But at the end of the day,
that's my exact meaning, and thank you for someone who actually wants to talk about my exact meaning, what I mean.
Yeah. At the end of the day, Stanley, you argued a plausible stance.
I think this is the thing, and I don't understand why people get their panties in a twist, especially the people that believe by faith, because that's the whole point. The whole point is, yeah, we don't know. We don't have definitive proof. We have no idea. We do believe by faith, and as a matter of fact, that's one of the central doctrines of Christianity, is that you do believe by faith. So why anybody would get their panties in a twist, I don't understand. That's actually very consistent with being a Christian.
Because some of the stuff that you believe in, let me ask you a question, right? Do you believe that Noah built a wooden boat and had every fucking animal across the planet on it?
Man, we've already had this discussion a million times.
I mean, I have never.
Do I think there's a truth to the story that there was some story that happened that ended up into an allegorical story in the Old Testament? I'm not reaching.
You're reaching, like you're thinking a one man or woman fucking got a boat full of animals, like or anything similar to that.
Did I say that, Brumi?
Kind of.
No, I didn't. What I said is there a kernel of a story that ended up turning into an allegorical story in the Bible? I think there was some root story. I think
why have you transformed my questions? It's some bullshit.
I'm not transforming. I'm answering with complete clarity.
Do you believe Noah built a boat?
I think that the Bible story of Noah is allegorical, and that it's based on some true event that did happen, but it's not accurately reflected perfectly in the Bible. That's what I think.
No, we're not even near. Like just did fucking Noah build a wooden boat which had loads of animals on it? Yes or no?
There are flood stories from all different cultures around the world, so I think there was some.
You don't like answering questions. I've realised that. Okay, cool.
I am answering your question. You just
you're not answering. You're transforming it in some.
You want me to say that I literally believe the Noah's Ark story?
So what you should say is no, I don't literally believe it. That's cool. So that's good then.
No, but I do believe that there had to be some root story that it came from.
So basically, anything in there can be just like kind of true, even though it's not.
Yeah, allegorical.
A guy walking on water, a guy coming back from the death, a guy being born without no sexual conception, like from his mother. Like all these things, you think, oh, well, it's not exactly factually true, but I believe there's some sort of truth to it. Like you can say that with anything.
Or do you rule it out that the power of God could do something like that? You have to. You have to allow.
He's entitled to his own explanation.
The very thing that creates the universe to create a freaking human being out of nothing.
I'm not arrogant enough to say that I think that history is 100. That the history that has been recorded throughout the history of mankind is 100% accurate, and I'm not arrogant enough to say that there isn't some kernel of truth to it as well. So I think that's a very fair position to take.
It's like Chinese whispers, though, isn't it? Like the further back you go, the more bullshit gets added to the story. So it becomes kind of irrelevant to even like the first word could be hello, and then by the time it gets to like 500,000 people, it's like fucking. Do you know what I mean? So it could be fucking anything. So it's like realistically, even though there's a relation to the word that you're hearing, but the word has been so saturated, it's complete bollocks now. And there's no reason to assume anything logical you're gonna get anything from that.
So you don't think human beings have historically preserved documents for like
in the Bible? No, not really. I think like people walking on water and coming back from the death and being born like without like miracles and fucking all this stuff. It's a bit far fetched, and it's safe to assume that it's just been added by primitive people, been passing down fucking stories that have just been saturated into some nonsense, and it's stupid to believe anything that's written in them texts.
So ask him for his opinion, right?
So 5,000 years from now, like something could happen that wipes out all of our electronics, and somebody could say, you know, it's really important that I print this PDF, and we could print a PDF about world history, and then 5,000 years from now, that PDF could be preserved and handed to somebody, and that person, you, would be like, oh, this is all bullshit. That never happened.
But I think the PDF now is a completely different from people with fucking who couldn't even survive the common flu. That would all fucking we're so primitive. I mean, even though we've come a long way, we're still very primitive now.
Wow.
But we're still very primitive now. But I feel like if you're talking about PDF files through computers and stuff like that, and printing stuff out, it's a different sort of level.
I find it amazing that people like you are so arrogant to say that people that built the pyramids were primitive. That I find that amazing.
So it's not like people have become more intelligent over the last 1,000, 2,000 years. We have the same amount of intelligence.
Not really. People are degenerating.
Yes, we do.
The people you think you'll get the degenerating and becoming stupider. Hold on a sec. You think the people who built the pyramids, the people that have written your Bible?
The brain pathways of people in modern day versus people 2,000 years ago are not that dissimilar to account for a huge gap in intelligence. They weren't dumber than us. They just didn't have the same tools as us.
They didn't have electricity. Than us. They were smarter than us, more energetic, more long-lived, and more connected to spiritual forces. We're degenerating.
They weren't dumber than us.
It just makes your thesis fail, though, to say that we're becoming smarter. Evolution's alive from the pit of hell in that regard, because we're degenerating.
Don't go too far. We were having a nice, peaceful conversation about beliefs. Yeah. Don't bring hell and all the burning and all the rest of it into it, right?
All I'm saying is that we're degenerating and becoming
in the other direction.
So we need to look to the.
You're not going to blanket everyone in this fucking conversation.
That includes myself. Everybody's degenerating and becoming stupider than the wise people of the past.
Let's go back the other direction where we were with the comment Brummy made. What makes us better and more capable from what we used to be back when we built the pyramids is that we write down our information and pass it along, and so it becomes cumulative throughout generations.
Yeah, and I would argue it started from them, right? It started back then.
Right. But fundamentally, they weren't any dumber than we are now. We're basically the
same amount of dumb.
I think it's super arrogant to say that somebody wrote down a story 2,000 years ago. They claim it's not fiction. You know, they claim that it's actual events that occurred, and we're arrogant enough to say, "Oh, bullshit."
They didn't have to. They used to die from like the common flu, and they used to have like 10 babies, and like 2 of them would survive.
What does that have to do? What does that have to do with whether or not they wrote down words on a piece of paper?
Their circumstances are completely different.
So
we're not.
To me, they're primitive.
Which are a little bit.
Unless you're willing. Unless you're willing. It is. Unless you're willing to accept that somebody 5,000 years from now can just completely disregard anything that you write today Unless you're willing.
But that's not equivalent, though, is it? Them days were a lot different. They was having wars and they was all shooting and bombing each other, and they had a completely different outlook. Like we're a lot more different. We're a lot different now. We're not like any of them people them days.
What? It's still words on a piece of paper. Did they write what they saw or not?
They come from a different sort of time, a different era. Okay, it's like saying going back to the caveman. You're saying the caveman was just as smart as the person who wrote down the Bible 1,000 years later. We get evolved. We do evolve. We get more refined.
That's where you equate one writer to the Bible, rather than a story and a plan. God's plan, stating that different people would come along, and Jesus' arrival. Hold on. Jesus' arrival was spoken of through multiple texts, and then those words that were written before Jesus' arrival were fulfilled by him. And then later on into Islam, the same thing. So the idea that it's all just this haphazard freaking mess on paper from bullshit is a nice blanket statement that you would, as a non-believer would like to apply to it. But I won't allow it, because there are so many things that took modern technology to even confirm.
It's basically Chinese whispers, mate. It's Chinese whispers. It's a book of Chinese whispers, and you keep saying it's arrogance. You're assigning that. I don't think it's arrogant.
I never said arrogant.
Hold on, it's just I did interrupt you, but at the end of the day, it's just looking at life for what it is, and just realizing that back in the day, it's a load of bollocks, and it's just been passed down and passed down and passed down, and more shit's been added to it. And we can test some of the stories in there now, like fucking women just being pregnant out of nowhere. We can test people coming back from the dead. We can test fucking a guy building a boat, and we realize all this shit is bullshit. It's like we talk about Elvis like he was a god. Elvis was amazing.
I think you haven't done enough research into the actual facts surrounding these things in the book. When you're talking about the angel that came to Mary is the same angel that came to Muhammad.
Bruni, you do realize that we understand that the Immaculate Conception was supernatural, right? You understand that, right? We don't say that women naturally get pregnant as virgins. You understand that, right?
Which supernatural do you have now? Which data do you have about any event which is supposed to be supernatural? And what does that even mean?
I don't need
one at a time.
Data. Why would I need data? This isn't a scientific experiment.
Exactly.
Would it be? Oh, it's hard to get a word in.
Carry
on. All these supernatural phenomena are just not real as today. None of them exist.
It'd be easier for non-believers to take that stance. But
it's a fact, though. No one's coming back from the dead, mate. No one's coming back. No one's coming back from the dead, mate. No one's coming back from the dead. No one's walking on water. You know what I mean?
And what did Jesus say about his miracles?
These people were fooled. Bottom line.
And they wrote it down on paper.
You gotta be quiet, man.
It's circular reasoning. You're saying there's no supernatural events. We never see supernatural events, but when people actually saw them and wrote them down on paper, you just dismiss that. So that's
people sit there and cry about it. They've seen ghosts. I've seen ghosts. I've seen aliens. There's all sorts of mad people out there claiming these mad things. They're all mad.
It also says that you'll blind yourself from seeing.
There's all sorts of mad people out there, and they have detractors.
I'm an agnostic. I'm an agnostic atheist. I'm an agnostic atheist. I'm not an atheist. I'm not an atheist.
Can we stick on the point that you just made? Those they have detractors. Modern day people that claim that they see ghosts have detractors. They have critics that come out and say, "Bullshit! There's no ghost in their video. Whatever. This isn't a ghost." The critics of Jesus said he was a fucking sorcerer. They didn't say he didn't do the shit. They said he was a sorcerer and that he was of the devil. That's what the critics of Jesus said. If the critics of Jesus wanted to criticize him the way that you want him to be criticized, that he didn't do supernatural events, they would have just said he didn't do supernatural events. That's what they would have said.
Well, we don't.
That's not what they said.
We don't have any of these critics of Jesus in their own writing making claims. We have the biblical writers making these claims about the critics of Jesus.
Okay.
That's a good point.
It's not
Josephus, the Jewish historian, wrote about Jesus. Yeah, now you go find a critic, go find a contemporary.
No one is
go find a contemporary critic of Jesus that said that he didn't do his miracles.
No one is just taking these scriptures and arrogantly tossing them aside and calling them bullshit. We are competently investigating them and have done so for 2,000 years.
No, you're not.
That's debatable.
I'm sorry, but that's not debatable. Historically, it's not debatable at all.
No, that's just making that a wild accusation with no basis.
When you just called the Immaculate Conception factual, isn't it just more plausible if the event even occurred? More plausible that she just got knocked up on the sly?
I call it supernatural. That's what I called it.
Supernatural.
Well, okay, look, when you open the door to the supernatural, that now the sky's the limit. Now you've got flat Earth, so that's on you.
Exactly.
All Christians should bear the burden of flat Earthers, and I'm never going to let them live it down.
There's that blanketing again.
Yeah, blanketing
rule out one thing, and then the rest of it just throw it out. Don't listen.
Not really. Not the baby with the bathwater. Not the baby with the bathwater.
There are so many factors after
I
that.
don't like what you're saying. I'm going to call you a name. That's all you're doing right there. I don't like what you're saying, so I'm just going to lump you into a group of people.
I'll give you this. I reckon that Jesus probably was real, probably was a real man. But do I believe he walked on water? No. Do I believe he turned water to wine? No. Do I believe he come back from the dead? No. Do I believe this? Believe that? No. I don't believe all the bullshit miracles in that they're enticed with it to try and boost him up. It's a bit like how we talk about Elvis. He was the great, he was the king, he was amazing. But with today, we've got hundreds of thousands of singers, 10 times better than he would ever have been. But at the time, he was and we're talking to him more.
Okay, so fair enough.
Brummy, you got to be quiet for like a minute now. You've been talking incessantly.
Here's a question, Brummy. Here's a question. What was Jesus' last couple of words before he left?
I don't know.
You know so much about his miracles and all the rest. What was the last things he said?
I don't believe anything in the Bible, so no.
Why have you forsaken me, Father? Forgive them, for they know not what they do. Listen, I've got a better question.
No, more like I go now to the Father, your God, and my Father, your Father.
What's that got to do with anything I said?
I've got a better question.
Before that, he said, "With the by myself, I can do nothing."
You think he said all this? You think he said all this? You don't know that. You don't know any of it. You don't know any of what he said. You don't even know if he was a man who talked English or whatever. Yeah. You don't know nothing you're talking about. You're just assuming.
You're being a history denier, dude.
I mean,
history denier.
I don't know if the Bible is history. I mean, if it was history, you'd be able to give us the year that he was born.
It's the most well-preserved historical document that we have.
Great. What's his last name then?
I don't think that's a good document.
What did Jesus say on fucking Tuesday? What did Jesus say on Tuesday? Fucking 19 You don't even know what fucking your granddad said when you was born. Never mind what Jesus said before he died.
What did he say, John?
What did your granddad say when he was born? How the fuck do you know?
When was John written down?
So, if my grandfather would have written memoirs, should I, or could I believe it?
Passed them down for 1,000 years.
But we know for a fact that Jesus didn't write down any of those words.
Okay.
Other people,
they were written down 40 to 60 years after his death,
and none of them were eyewitnesses.
So we can't study history. Is that what you're saying?
No. It's not history. It's your Bible, mate. It's a self-confirming book telling you a load of bullshit. Simple as that.
No, the Bible is the Old and New Testament, and the last Testament's the Quran. It validates the Bible.
No, it's not that really. It's in your head.
You want to mock my fucking voice?
Well, you've done it to me.
Do you, mate? Do you? Do you want to fucking go there?
Ronnie, you've got to take a break. You've been talking incessantly over everyone.
You want to take it to that bullshit level? For fuck's sake.
All right,
we were having a conversation, a true discussion, and you start mocking my fucking voice. Does that mean you're fucking losing the argument or losing your cool? Which one is it?
Just means that you know what Jesus said, but you don't even know what your granddad said when he was born. That's what it means.
Talk about what Jesus said after
what I'm saying is you're trying to write it.
You know what Jesus said before he died, but you don't know what your granddad said when he was born. It's hilarious.
Nobody wrote down what my granddad said.
Nobody wrote down what you wrote it down. You can't confirm. You can't confirm anyone wrote down what Jesus said.
Why would they write down anything that he said?
You can confirm that World War I happened.
Put out
I'm not here trying to claim that my granddad said anything or that Jesus.
Okay. Are you here trying to
making the claim, son?
Are you here to claim that World War I happened?
Why are you changing the subject?
I'm not changing the subject. It's 100% analogous. Well, you can deny, if you can deny history, and you can just pick and choose and cherry pick which parts of history you want to.
Let's stick to your bullshit, right? You know what Jesus said before he died. You don't know what your granddad said when you was born. Let's just stick to that.
And I've already answered that 3 times. Should I say it again? If somebody wrote down what my grandfather said when he died, then I would know.
When New York is real, does that mean that Spider-Man is real?
Oh man, come on!
Come on, let's not bring it down to that. You're trying to blanket. You're trying to leave it at the Bible and just leave it there. You don't know anything about how the connection between the Bible and Islam works. You don't know nothing about the things.
I'm glad I don't know because I ain't that fucking mental.
Because like I said, before you even bothered to look into it, you just labeled yourself a fucking agnostic atheist.
I look at people like you. And I think that's the result of reading the book, and I think how to the no do I end up like you?
Is that what you think?
Yeah, that's exactly what I do. I see religious people. I look at the outcome of reading. I look at the outcome of reading the book, and I go, "Wow, that's something I don't want to do." It's like looking at someone jumping off a cliff and they smash their fucking head off the floor, and I think, "Whoa, I don't want to do that." Because look how mental rejected they are. Like, now look at what you're doing with yourself, telling me about you believing, talking to living spirits outside of time and space.
No.
That's how crazy you are. I talk to God every day in my life. You know, if you just open your heart, you
just assigned all of that to me. Now take a breath for a second.
Exactly. You're creating a mockery of what we actually believe, and then you're criticizing that. You're not actually criticizing what we believe.
Yeah. You just make a whole bunch of assumptions. You have no fucking clue about my life. You don't know what I've been through, what path I've walked. None of these fucking things. You have nothing. All you do is have your best kept, assessment of what believers look like compared to you, outright spoken.
Do you or do you not speak to a being outside of time and space?
It's not really your fault, though, because...
Do you speak to a being outside of time and space, yes or no?
It's not really his fault, and I kind of do, sympathize with you. Because
do you speak to a being outside of time and space?
You're surrounded by media that...
I'll put it this way to you.
Faith believers in a certain way.
With your mocking, I'll even give it to you. In my belief system, God knows what's inside your chest, whether you reveal it with words or not.
Do you speak to a being outside of time and space or not? Do you claim to speak to a being outside of time and space? That's what I want to know.
Now you're assigning.
I'm asking you a question. I'm asking you a question. You can't.
The being now, is it?
Whatever. You don't want to answer the question. You've lost. End of. Next, move on.
Rummy, come on.
And do you think
you're losing the argument because you can't even have a conversation.
You speak to a being outside of time and space, yeah?
You're just rambling and talking over people that all of them.
Do you or not? Do you or not?
Any of this?
Stanley, do you speak to a being outside of time and space?
I think I do.
That's my argument there. That's it. End it. I'm not reading the book.
I mean, you're making a materialistic assumption.
If God does exist, then what's the problem with that?
Put it like this. God gave you the ability to talk and laugh and do all the things that you do.
You assume God gave me this gift.
No. I'm talking from my belief system.
You assume, right? And you assume that God.
And I'm happy to. But here's the thing: my stance is plausible. My reasoning is my own, and your choices are your own too. But if you're going to sit there and try to put me into a little box, it's not going to fit.
Sandy just said he speaks to a being outside of time and space. That's great. Good for him.
I described to you what I believe God to be, right? That's how this whole thing started. If God is the thing that I'm convinced does exist, then why can't he hear me? Explain that.
Well,
explain that to
me. Can we distinguish? Does this God speak back?
I haven't heard the voices. No, I haven't heard voices.
You hear voices in your head.
So you can speak to whatever you'd like to all day long.
Yep, I can.
I think it's the eyes to see and the ears to hear, meaning the timing and the events that unfold after certain events, whether you have the ability to witness them or not, whether you just write them off as insignificant. But for me to be put into a box and you read the book and this is why, no. No.
It's true. That's
here's the thing, Brummy. Here's the Brummy. You're the swine that I'm not to share the pearls with.
Right, brilliant. Yeah. Because I need to open my heart. Blah 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 blah.
No.
Emotional blackmail.
Open your heart. You don't even have a seat in your fucking soul.
It's the same thing, same shit, different day. That's all it is. Religion.
See, here's the thing, right? Same shit, different day.
Same shit, different day.
Same message, different medium.
You're not saying no different to what
see that? Same shit, different day.
Same shit, different day.
Message, different medium. Well done. So you're getting it.
Same shit,
You're
different
getting it. See, the idea of equality was the message that the Jews were
being outside of Thomas' face, and you expect me to go, oh, right, really? And then,
here's the thing, Brummy. Here's the thing, Brummy.
Oh, he doesn't, you know, God needs
you to accept him. For what we exist in, something would have to exist. Something would have to begin. Something would have to create. And the idea of something outside of time and space is a plausible stance. Even science can't rule that out, Brummy.
You're assuming. You're assuming.
No, I'm allowing.
Brummy, please.
I'm getting a sandwich. I'm getting a sandwich right now. So.
Brummy,
guys, listen.
In the world, it's done something. I bet you.
Oh, you guys. I'm gonna have to mute.
Well, Brummy, it's not that hard to think of a being that's outside of time and space, but still real. It's
you can make everything up what you like to, right?
And not necessarily.
And
if you want to go metaphysical, you could think of reality as layers.
Metaphysical nonsense, right?
Well, if you want to go metaphysical, you can think of reality as layers. There are parts of reality that we interact with, and parts that pass
you can make a
and so God may be on that layer that doesn't choose to interact with us, but is still there. It's like the electromagnetic spectrum. Some we can see, some we can't. But there's an invisible world that's still there that we're not interacting with.
At the very least, no matter what you say,
the
stance of the believer is plausible, and you can't deny that. Can you honestly deny that?
Sheeple, Brummy is not actually here to hear.
No, Brummy. I'm talking to whoever just Mr. Logo, isn't it?
Mr. Logo, he can respond to you, but I just want to say this again real quick because I'm about to get a sandwich, and so I don't want to mute indiscriminately or whatever, but people are complaining and shit, and so it's like you guys just try to talk one at a time, even if it's getting heated or whatever. Like don't talk over somebody, and then that way you're not going to get muted. All right?
I'm sorry about that. I'm trying not to talk because everyone's telling me they don't like what I'm saying, so I'm talking for that reason.
Limit yourself to 20 seconds and then listen to other people.
Do listen to what they're saying, but I instinctively know what they're saying.
They can say what they want to say. They're not crazy flat earthers, okay?
But Brummy, what about the electromagnetic spectra of light? You can see some parts of light, some parts you can't. What about that? Brummy, what about the part of light that we can see and the part of light that we can't see? What about that?
Well, the part of life that you can't see, that you're assuming that you can't see, and then you're saying that you can see because you're spiritual. And it's just interdimensional bullshit I can't be dealing with.
Okay, well,
just like I don't think you said that at all.
Also, you're claiming you can't see it, but also you claim to know all about it. Okay, so you got to calm down.
I think the point that's being made here is that there was a point in time where science was unaware of the electromagnetic spectrum. Now they are aware of it. It doesn't mean there aren't other parts of reality that we're unaware of. I mean, that's the truth.
Exactly. Cognitive functions are still largely misunderstood or not known about.
Also, great. You drag that into the world of observational science, and I'm on board.
Right, and here's the thing. The idea of the stance of the believer is plausible inside any realm of science that you throw at it. Whether you want to deny it or you want to come to their grips with it, unfortunately, based on that unknown, and you might call it God of the gaps, but I call it a plausible stance.
Well,
the things that people believe in, the things that people drive them, the faith that they have, and the things they do because of that faith in a peaceful, loving nature, and cherish the lives that they have, hurt no one. The mocking and the bullshit is taking a stance and saying, I'm agnostic, but I'm actually still got my eye open, but I'm not searching. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's a very, very well-spoken position. Atheist is like, yep, right there on the board, label, and that's fine. But the non-believer and the believer are equal in the plausible stance.
I don't think it's equal in the sense that you cannot claim that something interacts with physical reality and does not leave a trace, an investigatable trace.
I get what you're saying, but that's the human limits. That's the human limits that you apply to limits themselves. The magnificent.
I don't even know how you arrived at these limits.
That's the trace.
But how long will the trace last? I mean, if you put, condensed breath on the window, it will evaporate and it will no longer be there. It left a trace, but it didn't last for long. If you're dealing, say, metaphysically with a highly energetic God, that's there and gone in the next instance, how are you going to have a trace that doesn't evaporate? Looking at the condensation of the window.
You can't have it both ways. You can't say that he's knowable, but he doesn't leave a trace, but you can't study him because he leaves no trace.
But he did with the Bible. You just rejected the historical revelation of the Bible that said that he was here.
We're arguing the whole existence is the trace of God. This is the argument.
Exactly. And Revelation is epiphany through meditation. So the idea of cognitive functions not being understood and the idea that the subconscious is assumed to have no author, none of these things can be proven.
You can now make that claim for everything. But in any case, I don't think anything.
That's what makes the
hold on, dude. Can I finish talking? I don't think anything can dip. I don't think anything can dip its hand into this reality and pull it out without dripping with evidence.
Except for the thing that made it.
And how do you even come to that conclusion?
Well, here's the thing. It's
like
that
conclusion sounds
that's
too
where we
convenient.
started, Rex.
Dude, can you be quiet for one? That conclusion sounds a little too convenient. Wow, it's like it's also a being that leaves absolutely no trace of itself, conveniently for you.
I don't think it leaves no trace of itself. That's what you're saying. I'm not saying that.
I think that's the hardened hearts that God talks about in John 12:40.
God talks about it.
The trace is obvious. I mean, point a telescope into the sky. Where did that come from? I mean, it's not complete random chaos.
I can now, if you want to answer that with a particular thing, I can find a dozen other things to answer, and that I will have the same veracity as yours.
Right, but do you think it's fair to put limits to something that's limitless because you're a human mind construct? A finite mind, finite ability.
I'm sorry.
Rex
all the limits placed on it are yours.
No, but your idea that God can't enter and leave because in your mind it has to be that way is ridiculous. The thing that makes reality itself is not bound by its time and laws.
I don't know why you have that conclusion. That's the whole thing.
But you just said it would leave a trace, right?
Why would anything not leave a trace?
What if the trace that it leaves? If the trace that it leaves is within your being?
By what mechanism did it enter this reality?
Through you.
I beg your pardon?
It could come through you. See,
then it would leave evidence.
The evidence could be you.
Could be your consciousness.
Then why am I not testament to this evidence?
Well, maybe it's like this, right?
You're just talking, dude. You're just talking in circles. Unless you've got something concrete, here's the thing. Please don't weigh in.
No, but he's
giving you a plausible explanation.
Here's the thing. You're right. You're writing off my idea because you don't like the way it sounds.
Exactly.
I'm writing it off wholesale.
Okay, well, maybe someone else wants to listen.
I'm writing it off wholesale.
When God says about hardening hearts, maybe that's it. He enters time and space through your heart if it's not hard.
Karma, your head is so far up your own ass you can't see where you're wrong. That's the bottom line. Oh, I've read so much into these books and I can explain these books at the top of my head. You're so far up this book that you can't see a way out. You're completely mind-fucked.
You limited it to one book one more time. See, that's the problem. I limited it to the message of faith. You tried to pin me into a Bible.
There's a whole history that is accounted for in the Bible. That's the thing. Like you keep saying like these prophecies that were made in the Old Testament that were fulfilled by Jesus Christ. Oh, that didn't happen. Like that's your circular reasoning. You have to discount the Bible because the Bible actually does provide prophecies that were fulfilled. I mean, that's the problem. You're not willing to even entertain that could have occurred.
Because I can see the result of watching that. By reading that book, I'll end up like this guy here, talking about fucking, all these fucking revelations, and Gene 64 fucking said something about, this, and Jesus said this at the revelation of this. What the fuck's all this nonsense you're talking about? Absolute bullshit.
Should I give you some ground verses as well?
You think it's bullshit, but there was a historical document that existed before the time of Jesus. This is well known. I mean, Jewish history here. And I would argue that the Jews who didn't think Jesus Christ was the Son of God would not keep a book around that supports this idea if it weren't true. So you have the Jews that have this old book that had all these prophecies in it, and you have the New Testament where Jesus fulfilled the prophecies. And this is
a lovely story. A lovely story that you're telling me. It's a lovely story. That's what it is.
Oh, hold on. I ask people a question when everyone's done?
Yeah, and it's a lovely story. Everything is in my history book too. But I have a tendency to believe it.
That just begs the question: how come the Jews didn't buy Jesus Messiah?
I don't know. Ask them.
If he fulfilled all the prophecy, why did they pull out the red carpet?
Well, there's deniers in every generation, I imagine.
Well, there were next generations after that. Why didn't anybody all this time say, you know what, that Jesus wasn't?
Are you telling me that you don't think there are Jews that have converted to Christianity? Is that what you think?
Not anymore. I mean, I'm sure there were.
There are every day. There were, but happens every day.
Listen, I'm agnostic, right? I'm agnostic, and I warm to the atheist side.
What happens more every day that people deconvert from Christianity.
So I'm an agnostic atheist. I don't claim there is no possible way that there could be no God, because I do see a magnificent world, and there's some sort of order to the galaxies, and there is a possibility that it was created. I can get that idea, but then to assume that it was created then leaves you to say who created the creator. If you say the creator is the only creator, then you're saying that a God could exist without any intervention, so therefore man could exist without any intervention. It's an equal argument.
No, that make sense to you? Not because there has to be an initial cause. That's the thing. You can't just go back into an infinite distance or an infinite amount of time into the past. It makes no sense. It's not a self-consistent idea. So at some point there had to be something that started everything. Mm-hmm. And that thing cannot have been caused because he created. No, that thing cannot be caused. And must, in fact, not be caused, because then you reintroduce the problem of infinite time. Well, he had to have created time. That's the
point that you're making is the problem is then who created the creator?
Call it a problem.
That's what you're not getting. You don't have to create a creator because creation requires time, which he created.
Man also doesn't require a creator, then, doesn't it? A man can just exist. If God can just exist, so can man. That's what I'm trying to get through to you. It's an equal argument.
You're not understanding. It's not an equal argument. There had to be a singularity that was uncaused that created everything.
Uncaused. That's a problem.
Exactly. It's not a problem at all because causation requires time.
You just said everything.
Causation requires everything that starts to exist meaning requiring time has to have a cause.
And how come the universe can't be uncaused?
Because that requires an infinite amount of time in the past, which doesn't exist. It's not self-consistent idea. It's axiomatic that it's an inconsistent idea that you can't go an infinite amount of time.
It is not axiomatic. First of all, the universe. First of all, nobody's ever even heard just one thing. This one universe is not all there is. It could be a long and a great stream of universes and a great ocean of universes.
Right. I don't understand how you don't understand that it's inconsistent to say that time.
If you're saying that God, you can say that God just is, then I can say man is just is. It's an equal argument.
It's not.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. There had to be only one single thing that was the initial cause.
And whatever that cause was,
when everything needs a cause, and you call this thing uncaused.
Because causation requires time. Now, I know that you've understood what I've said a number of times now, and now you're just ignoring the fact that I've said that causation requires time, and the thing that created time cannot have been
created. You are assuming there is no other alternative to how everything began apart from it being created. And I'm saying to you, if God can just is, then so can man. It's an equal argument.
There cannot be an explanation for things creating themselves from nothing.
Well,
there's no explanation that's
self-consistent. That's what you assume. That's what you believe. God can be the only answer.
Virtual particles are not nothing. There's a potential. There's the quantum potentiality, which is something that exists and was created by God. Absolute nothingness can't create.
The Big Bang.
We're getting to the point where we're.
I mean, there are alternatives. I find them convincing, but To say it's the only explanation.
It is convincing. I don't understand why it's like it's so freaking obvious that I don't understand why it's not axiomatic to you, Rex.
I don't claim anything axiomatic that is beyond the things we can measure and provide evidence for. You're just taking a guess at that point.
Yeah, the problem that this falls into is this God of the gaps issue, where you're saying that in order for things to exist, something must have created it. Okay, right. But the thing that created it must have existed somewhere. So you can't say first there was nothing, then God said stuff existed.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that
it is what you're saying.
I'm saying in order for our reality to exist, it must have been created because it requires time. Every cause or every effect requires a cause. Okay, the initial cause that created time can't have been caused because there was no time to cause it. That's the whole point. That seems so obvious to me. I don't even understand why we're arguing about that.
I don't agree with your first premise that the universe has to have start. I mean, we have mapped out a quote-unquote beginning, but just because we've mapped out a beginning to the the Planck length doesn't mean we have an understanding of what happens in that interim.
Explain. Okay, so the only alternative to that would be an infinite amount of time into the past.
No, probably life is infinite. Probably life just keeps recycling.
The question is, explain to me logistically how to travel infinite amount of time.
Hold on. Maybe life is its way of experiencing itself. Maybe there was some. Maybe it just expands and explodes and implodes and just keeps going through this cycle for all eternity. And it always has and always will. Maybe that's what life really is. Maybe you're wrong.
Yeah, that really answered the question.
Go for it. That's all.
Again, the thing that sticks in my mind, and if you want to convince me to differently, which is what it sounds like you all are trying to do, then you need to get past this idea that you can travel an infinite amount of time. You can't.
I think that's not necessarily how the beginning, like the process at the beginning started, if you want to call it that. That's not the only explanation that is valid.
Yeah, right. The other explanation is that there was an initial cause that was not bound by time. Time was a created thing.
Your mind's made up and your mind's closed off. That's the problem here. Your mind's made up and your mind is closed off to all of it. Your mind is closed off to all of the medicine.
That's why I'm trying to make this into a one-up thing.
I literally just asked for a plausible alternative, and I haven't heard one yet.
The plausible alternative is that there's universes that are being born all the time with their own time and space.
And if you trace that back far enough into the past, at some point that had to have started. Because you can't go an infinite distance.
Why can't there be an infinite regresses of universes coming into and out of existence? Why can't there be
because you can't go an infinite distance. You can't go an infinite amount of time. This is infinity. This is what we're talking about mathematics at this point. You can't reach infinity.
You can't. Your mind's made up. Your mind closed off. That's it. Your mind's made up. Your mind closed off.
I'm helping right now.
You keep saying my mind is made up, but I'm waiting for somebody to tell me that mathematics is wrong.
Listen.
And that you can reach
your mind's made up. Your mind's made up.
That you can traverse an infinite amount of time. I want to hear how that's possible.
You're the one who's saying there's no other way. I'm saying there is.
Then you
can muted for a little bit so people can actually talk.
Hang on. Why does this whole concept require us to be able to traverse an infinite amount of time?
We haven't gone the infinite amount. We're still in the current.
Because for this idea to work, you have to have an infinite amount of time into the past that you have traversed already.
Hold on. An infinite amount of time in the past does not negate a present.
Okay.
Mathematics may not make any sense without space-time, Stanley. It may be nonsensical.
Time may not have any meaning beyond where the universes exist and come into and out of existence. There may be no such thing as time.
I agree with you.
Time is the flow
I totally agree. You're actually agreeing with me right now.
But time is the flow of events.
Time itself was created.
There's nothing mathematical that says that we cannot have an infinite number of universes or an infinite distance within the universe. There's nothing in mathematics that says that. We know infinity exists in mathematics.
Infinite distance. I said an infinite amount of time into the past. You cannot traverse an infinite amount of time into the past.
We don't know if there is an infinite amount of time.
In fact, you're actively avoiding it.
Hang on. My understanding is that the current scientific theory is that our known universe, the thing that we observe, began approximately 14 point something billion years ago with a Big Bang event. That was a huge expansion of both space and time. Mm-hmm. Beyond that point, all of known space and time was known to be part of a singularity.
As far as we know, yeah.
Right. So what people are saying here, what people are saying here soundly is that you can have an infinite number of singularities that go through a loop, just like stars do. When they're born, they form, they go through a lifetime, and then they die off. Singularities can do the same thing.
You're talking about cause and effect right now, which requires time.
Here's a question.
Yeah.
Okay.
So is the amount of particles in the universe measured?
Well, my question was really going to be kind of, if a star can be born, go through a life cycle over a period of time and then die, why can't a universe?
It certainly can, but it requires time.
Why do you have a problem with infinite time, though?
But is it random or is it measured?
Because you can't traverse an infinite amount of time. I don't understand why this is even a question for the mathematics-minded people.
You keep asserting that it can't. You are asserting it every single time.
That's like the same as what's that paradox? There's an infinite number of points between point A and point B, and therefore we could never traverse
0 and 1. Yeah.
There's an infinite amount of points, but there's a finite amount of distance.
You keep saying that it can't because, like, you know for a fact when your mind is made up and you're so closed-minded, you are limited. Me, I'm open to both questions.
You claiming that I'm closed-minded over and over again?
You keep telling everybody that it can't happen. You keep telling everyone it can't happen. There's no such word as can't.
I've asked for a plausible explanation for traversing an infinite amount of time.
Even if we can't give you an answer, that does not mean it can't be done.
Then I would be willing to listen.
I've already explained it.
I'm in the position there, but there are alternatives that don't involve an infinite amount of time.
I haven't heard of it.
What about the concept that I proposed there about an infinite number of singularity events that each go through their own life cycle requires the current universe that we are in to exist in an infinite?
Do you understand that you're talking about a life cycle, which is a requirement of that is time itself, right?
Yeah, a life cycle for that single singularity event, its expansion and then its ultimate collapse.
So you're requiring time to exist for this to occur.
No matter what you say to Sandy, he's never going to see out of his own ass. He's never going to see out of his own ass.
It's not that I'm not seeing out of it. Is that I have thought about this.
Your mind's made up, mate. Your mind's made up. You're done.
That was yours, Brummy. You say you're open to me knowing.
Shut the fuck
I understand his position.
All you're doing right now is like seriously disrupting the conversation. That's all you're doing. You're just a disruptive influence on the conversation. You're not productive in any sort of way. Fucking mute yourself and shut up and let these other people that actually want to have an honest conversation talk.
Just because I'm pointing out your flaws, don't get mad at me.
Trying to put them in a box as well.
You're not. You're not pointing out anything. All you're doing is illustrating your own bias.
Yep.
Okay, let me talk this out for a bit, guys, with Soundly, right? So, if a singularity event that creates a universe goes through a similar life cycle to what a star does, then could you not concede the point that within the context of this universe, it would exist for a finite amount of time, it would go through a life cycle, and during which we would exist in that universe. And at the end of its lifetime, it would collapse with us in it, if we're still alive.
Yeah, the universe has a life cycle. I don't deny that. I agree with that.
Okay, so your issue then becomes, okay, what creates the singularities, right? And that's where your argument falls on some sort of deity or something.
Yeah, what creates the singularities? What creates time itself? What creates even anything that we call reality? Like the rules, time, space. All this is a thing. I mean, this is something that exists, right?
So
the quantum potentialities exist. These are things that exist. What creates that?
So my argument to that would be that reality just exists. Time and space exist, whatever, and quantum probabilities are what effectively cause singularities. But beyond that, it doesn't require a creator. It's just existence. Existence is a thing. It's a fact.
Yeah.
Unless you can prove to me that there is some evidence for some sort of creator, I've got no reason to believe in it.
Well, to me, the evidence is the existence itself, because you still haven't explained how you can progress an infinite amount of time. And that's what was required here to get to some starting point that started this whole ball rolling.
Can I just say something?
No, not really.
Even if you do have a creator, where'd that creator come from? You could do that an infinite amount of times. I feel like eventually it would have had to start somewhere out of nothing.
Exactly.
We just went through that. But here's my question to Wildy.
Or with something that's eternal. He could have just always been.
The singularity and the repeating infinite, loop thing that you spoke about. Yeah. What about the concept that everything inside the universe had a measured amount?
Yeah, I mean, the concept that I'm toying with here is that, current scientific theories go that, a Big Bang occurred and there may be some quantum probabilities involved in how that happened. Obviously, we don't know because we haven't got that far in our scientific understanding of how the universe was formed. There are lots of theories. There's lots of talk about things like string theory and stuff like that, but I don't want to get too deep in the science because I just don't think anyone here is qualified enough to have that level of conversation. But the theory goes that, I kind of work on the basis that for something like gravity, we can say, well, we've seen an effect, we've noticed that it happened, so that's a thing, right? But with something like creation, it's not something you can witness, so you just accept that it's there, and you accept that cause and effect is a thing. Now, how it got here? Well, that is an interesting question, but I would be more inclined to say, well, it got here naturally than I would to say something created it, just because it doesn't seem to me to be a plausible scenario that something would create everything.
Well, let me stop there and say, when you say you would be more inclined to think that it got here naturally, my first question would be, what made naturally? What made the thing that we call nature naturally?
So what you refer to as nature or just the universe in general or just reality, I would just say that just is. There is no explanation for what created it. It was just here.
That's like a slick thing to say.
That's
just
horrible.
So, I hear what you're saying, and
everything that we see and observe is natural, right?
It doesn't sound plausible to me, and I'll tell you why. The thing that hangs me up every time is that for it to be here, that means that time just had to be here, and time was always here, which means there's an infinite amount of it into the past.
Can I give you an example
of mentally traverse that gap right there?
So here, take this example. You get hung up on this infinite time thing. So if you go back at the instant that Planck time and space time evolved, what if there's a pair of universes and one universe is experiencing time in the forward direction, like our universe, and its pair experiences time in the exact opposite direction, so that the sum between the two is 0 time.
Okay. And
but we can't rule out any explanation at this point.
Can other people join the conversation?
Only if Brummy stays muted.
Something had to start this, with whatever you surmise about the beginning of this universe, whatever it started from, I want to know where that came from. And I don't want an answer of, well, we don't know. Just in the sense of...
We've already answered it, but I'll be happy to answer it again.
Where did it come from then?
It didn't come from anywhere, because coming from somewhere means creation, which requires time to exist. But the thing that created the initial cause doesn't exist within time, or didn't exist within time. It actually created time. So it doesn't... That thing was always here, because it actually created time itself.
I know, but I'm asking for their answer, for the people who are disagreeing with you, because I've had this question for a long time. I've talked with people about this, and I can never get past the Big Bang. It always comes down to, well, we don't know. That's the $1 million question and all that. I can't get past the Big Bang.
We have no observations.
Plausible, logical.
Yeah, I mean,
I think we all agree it's philosophical at that point. But
there's some philosophical like things like maybe reality and space-time are membrane, and these membranes, if they collide, lead to enough energy to cause another membrane, and that's the creation of a new universe.
Exactly.
I mean, that's complete masturbation because we have no evidence of it.
Right. Well,
so if you want explanations like that, they're out there.
Right, but we're not coming up with anything logical here.
Yeah, I don't think any of us are in a position to define. Oh, Jesus, can I finish? I don't think any of us are in a position to define what kind of continuum exists outside of our universe. Perhaps universes beget other universes. Therefore, time remains in a continuum. Secondly, I don't know how you square this circle with this vast singular creator intellect with the provincial God described in the Bible. They are two distinct personalities.
I don't understand why you insist on using terminology like squaring the circle, which we all know is impossible. You start off with that premise in your head. You're not actually willing.
That's why I use the phrase, because it is impossible to square.
No, all you're doing is telling us your conclusions, right?
Stanley, can I finish? Thank you.
Well, I was talking and then you interrupted me after you finished talking.
Because you were going off on something I hadn't clarified. The God of the Bible is, it's the Old Testament. This one is known. This one is pretty well known through history, and it's rather a provincial God. Jesus, even more provincial. How does the vast creator intellect manifest itself into beings?
Yeah, and somehow.
I mean, how does the creator of universes concern itself with donkeys on Earth?
So this is what I would call bike chatting, because the topic of conversation is actually about, does a God exist? It's not saying who he is or which one he is or how he's presented.
I think we can cut to that chase, don't you?
No, not at all.
In Islam,
I mean, I don't know what all this pussyfooting is about. Let's just cut to the chase.
All right. Well, you talk about power of God in Islam. It goes on to say, and further, remember that Islam says that the people who read the Bible are called people of the Scripture. So it names them people of the Scripture. It talks to Israel in the Quran, and in the Quran it talks about the power of God being God only has to say be and it is.
That's hardly convincing.
That's the power. That's the power that you would expect limitlessness to have.
Yeah. So why does it come to Earth immediately become limited?
Well,
creatorless existence.
Let's take it a step forward. Let's try and make this more down to earth, like human thing. If we in the future have the ability technologically to actually simulate consciousness and simulate worlds and stuff like that, the programmer is outside of that actual reality, right? I mean, that's what we're talking about. The programmer doesn't sit in the program, but he could easily create an avatar. He could easily create an avatar to go into the program and interact with the subjects in a virtual way. But it doesn't mean that he's in that. It doesn't mean that he's actually in that world.
Yeah, but when he interacts with that world,
Matrix theory, right?
Yeah, he has
it's similar.
Really, you talk about the
Matrix came from that idea.
University, give me the Matrix. Come on.
The Matrix. Hold on, that's not fair at all, Rex. The Matrix is a movie.
It's exactly what you gave me.
No, The Matrix is a movie that encapsulates this idea that pre-existed the movie. Don't trivialize it.
Yeah, sorry, I muddied the water a little bit there, but the concept that you're talking about is simulation theory, right? So the idea is that this universe isn't real; it's merely a simulation carried out by a supreme being. But then that still falls into that infinite time loop problem that you were having issues with earlier, Soundly, because that thing is obviously watching the simulation take place. So that takes time, right?
Well, yeah, it's not analogous, right?
Can I ask a question?
Right. So it manifests itself into a corporeal being and doles out borrowed phrases and stolen ideologies. Grand.
It's an analogy. It doesn't match perfectly, as all analogies don't. But I mean,
I know, but I'm just saying these characters were not that impressive to be the grandmaster creator intellect of the universe.
Okay, sounds good.
I mean,
question for you.
As far as I know, they didn't cure any disease. As far as I know, they didn't. They it's like one rose from the dead, and so did the rest of the town. Apparently, resurrection was a banal event in those days.
Is this about
I mean, it doesn't.
Kurt, I have a question for you too.
It's like,
if you can, Matt, let me ask.
You outfit a wedding with fish and wine. It's not really knocking my socks off.
You have a question, Mr. Mackey?
Yeah, I have a question for the room. If there is an answer to this question, why? It sounds like everybody's assuming that the answer would be comprehensible to a human mind. Are we all making that assumption?
No, I am not making that assumption.
Nope.
I am.
Sounds like Donnelly is, though. And it sounds like Dalton recurves.
Hold on a second. Hold on. Don't attribute something to me that I don't agree with and then just blow past it. I don't think that. I think that God is unintelligible to us, that we wouldn't be able to comprehend him unless he revealed himself to him, unless he revealed himself in specific aspects of himself to us, which I believe has been done, right? That's what I think the Bible is.
But the argument you're making all this time is, since we can't comprehend infinite time, or we can't theorize infinite time, therefore God, right? Well, what happens if the problem is not that their infinite time can't happen, just that we can't comprehend it?
Well, just to clarify, I'm saying we can't comprehend, or it doesn't seem plausible that infinite time makes sense, even at a mathematical level. It doesn't seem plausible.
I agree. That's what you.
So therefore, the initial cause. That's that's the next step, and then the next question is, what are the aspects of this initial cause?
No. Let's not go.
That's the next question.
There yet. No, it's not the next question, because you haven't answered the first question yet. You said because of X, because it doesn't seem logical to us, X. Therefore, we have to ask the next question. What happens if the reason it doesn't seem logical to us is not because that's reality, but because of our brain's own failure? What happens if that's the only reason we don't understand X? And then if that's the reason, we don't need to go to Y, because the X is our problem, not reality's.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to have this fatalistic philosophy, you can. That's fine. It doesn't answer. It doesn't answer
about the limitations of the human mind.
Okay, skip the words that I use. Then, my God, why do you guys get hung up on these? Like, I'm just using a colorful word. Okay, so skip it. Well, let's talk. Let's use a different word. If you want to get hung up on something that doesn't answer interesting questions, you can do that. But we can't go anywhere past what you just said. If we can't first assume that our mind can reason correctly, well, then there is nothing else to talk about.
I agree. And if we can't, why do we assume our minds can understand the universe?
Because God.
The full complexity of the universe. Why do we?
Hold on. Nobody said we understand the full complexity of the universe. But can we reason about the universe and understand some things? Yes, we have to assume that. Otherwise, it's pointless for us to even have a conversation.
Okay, I agree. Some things, but that doesn't mean all things, right? And is the start of the universe one of those things that falls into some things, or is it something that falls into all things?
What?
And why do you put it in the category of the things we should be able to reason about?
We can reason about infinities. I mean, we've been doing that for a long time.
What makes infinite time impossible, though? I don't understand this reasoning that you've come to.
Well, you can't traverse an infinite amount of time, and that's what would be required. An infinite amount of time in the past would be required for nature to have just always existed.
What do you mean by that? An infinite amount of time in the past? Like if I went back a billion years.
No, let's say. Okay, so there was a today, right, and there was a yesterday. So that's one step into the past. If I try and continue that process to reach infinity, I'll never arrive.
So if we were to like rewind, if you like, the history of Earth and just keep going back and back and back, yeah?
Right.
You're saying we can't go back forever because eventually we would hit, well, what science calls the Big Bang.
Right.
And then we would be inside a singularity.
Yeah, eventually we would reach, an initial cause, what science calls the Big Bang, correct.
Okay, so because we don't understand the cause of a Big Bang.
Actually, that's the Big Bang is the initial effect, and the initial cause is what we're trying to understand.
Yeah, so you're saying because we don't yet understand the cause of a Big Bang, it's impossible for a universe to exist without a creator.
No, I'm saying that I haven't heard a plausible explanation other than that there had to be an initial cause that was outside of time.
I'm saying that it doesn't make sense that this one that we're in would be the only one that happened naturally without some other cause, that somehow everything that became this universe was there for, you know, how long? And if you take time out of it, then why did it ever do anything in the first place?
Guys, can I just jump in with a quick thing and I'll jump right back out?
No, because you're going to poison the well and we're having a good conversation with Sal.
I know, I'm not going to poison it. I'm going to jump right out. But just consider now. Now is the one thing that never requires a beginning or an ending because it's always now. Well, I'm going to jump out.
Wow, what a stupid thing.
Can I address Curved? Can I address Curved now?
Please.
I'd like to answer Curved if that's okay. Or I guess it's more of a question.
You got 20 seconds.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's fine. I think I can do it in 20 seconds. Let's go. Okay, so Curved, I agree with you. I can't comprehend this either. I've stated a few times here that I can neither comprehend infinite regression nor can I comprehend a beginning. I fundamentally, if anybody asks me how the universe started, I just say, I don't know, because I don't know. Now, the question is it possible to know? Can a human mind? I know mine can't. Are there other human minds who can understand this?
Perhaps.
I can understand.
Why do you expect to be able to understand it?
I'm not trying to understand it. But what I am saying is that
I can understand it.
We're trying to understand specific aspects of it.
In order to accept
Curved answer,
what I'm calling a creatorless universe, I have to accept that it is true that these illogical, unknowable things occurred for unknowable reasons. And I don't think that falls into the category of being rational.
No, you don't have to accept any of them. Why would you accept any of them without evidence?
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that.
Let me just say something real quick.
I have to accept that this universe, the expansion, Big Bang, that, there's no known cause, no logical, no imaginable cause that holds up to rational scrutiny.
At this point in time, yeah. What's wrong with that?
Is that a problem?
Yeah,
I think
I've got a problem to say you don't know.
My problem is that in order to accept, I have to accept that this I have
no answer. Yeah,
logical explanation has.
And for this question, sorry, you didn't finish. My bad. Go ahead.
I'm just trying to say I have to accept this irrational source and beginning of the universe.
I don't think it's irrational. You don't have to accept an irrational explanation.
There's no rational explanation for it. So
yes, there is.
There are several rational possible explanations.
There is a rational explanation.
I don't know why you guys want to go down that path either.
Yeah.
Can I just say something real quick?
There is a rational
there are no rational explanations right now.
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
There is one.
Can I just say something real quick? You either have to believe in the creator ultimately, or it came from nothing.
Yes.
You can believe you won't understand it. That's another option. You can believe you can't understand it.
Yeah.
You can understand it. You can't be understood.
Get it.
Explanation we have.
There's a very reasonable explanation.
By the way, something comes to mind in Soundly's whole Zeno's paradox thing about traversing an infinite time. That would also apply to God, because if God existed for infinity,
literally,
we already
covered this topic. We've already covered this.
Yeah.
I keep telling you, there's a rational explanation.
Zeno's paradox has a starting point, so it's out. It's not even an analogous situation.
I have the answer.
Go ahead, entertain us.
Okay, here's the answer.
Don't give him the floor.
It's always
contributed absolutely nothing. It's like this answer is.
Spit it out so he can shut up.
Yes. It's always now. Now is the one thing that
it's the same fucking answer you gave last time.
Dude, come on, man. It only takes 3 or 4 seconds.
We heard you the first time.
I know. Well, let's hear it again. Maybe somebody's in the room.
Everybody heard you the first time you said it.
Maybe they did. Listen, all part of the conversation. Just take it easy. We're just
ain't nothing but a goddamn gorilla wrench here.
He's an attention troll.
Dude, we're just having a conversation. I'm asking.
No, you're not. No, you are not having a conversation. You never have a conversation. Never.
People still here? People, are you still here?
Fucking posing this question. Now, what's the one? What's
the one thing? Did you see my question? Maybe like 10 minutes ago.
Come on, man. No, you didn't. I never got it out. I never got to finish.
3 or 4 minutes.
And I would like to be part of this conversation. It's only going to take 5 or 10 seconds. I'm only going to take 10 seconds. What's the one thing that doesn't have a beginning or an end? Now, that's the only thing. That's the only thing that never started or never will end because it's always now. Now, that's the answer to your paradox. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Done? Bye. All right. Let's resume.
Damn, you're dumber than I even thought you were.
Yeah, no, that's continue what you're saying, Kurt.
Why does this topic make Glovers and atheists so angry? I don't get it. Like, it's just God. It's just a discussion. Everyone gets so angry.
Not even talking about God,
Kurt's not angry.
It's Kurt.
Kurt,
You're about Glovers. We're not angry. What are you talking about?
I want to hear what Kurt's saying, man.
And
it's just an attempt to try to get to the truth. But when we talk about time,
listen to anything, Barry.
Is it reasonable to assume that at the point a Big Bang occurs, and probably before it, what we now see as conventional physics probably didn't behave the same way because the state that the universe was in?
Yeah, I've never understood that they say after. First of all, I didn't think Big Bang was modern science or modern explanation. Anyways, but even if it was, I don't understand that whole thing about, like milliseconds after the Big Bang, the physics of the universe weren't said or weren't the same. How's that possible? Is that not considered supernatural?
Well, what the law would have to bang in the first place? That law would have had to have been set up before anything even banged. So that's a contradiction right there. If we set up the law, then it had to bang in the first place. Why didn't it just crunch or spread or just appear here, there, and everywhere? Just split,
man. Don't ask a question after somebody else asks a question, man. That's really rude.
So I guess where I was going with this is that if the universe as we know it today is considered to be expanding post some huge Big Bang, then it's reasonable to assume that whatever led up to that big expansion must have been a big contraction, right? I mean, it's not an unreasonable assumption to make.
It's not unreasonable.
It is.
It doesn't need to be drawn.
All I'm saying is that there's a inherent contradiction in saying that the Bang set up its own laws. The law that said that it had the Bang wasn't technically set up. That's another paradox.
Can we just
set up the law?
Let him get his thought out, Lemon. Let him get his thought out.
I'm just saying what set up the law that it had to be period. That's a contradiction.
You can ask that. You can ask that whenever he's done.
Okay, all I'm doing here is I'm suggesting that if modern science theorists are somewhat correct and Big Bang theory has some real traction to it and is actually kind of like factually correct at some level, then it's reasonable to assume that in order to get a Big Bang followed by a large expansion, essentially, you've got to have some contraction in the first place, or you've got to have something compressed into that smaller amount of space, so to speak, so that space can then expand back out, if that makes sense. I'm probably not explaining it very well, but it doesn't seem like an unreasonable position to hold.
It's
not unreasonable.
What you're proposing, I believe, is infinite contraction and expansion.
Yes.
Yeah, that's called the oscillating universe. But since
is that what you're talking about, Ward?
Which is a possibility, which I think.
Brummy, do you know your name?
I do know my name, yeah.
Is your name Wardy?
Yeah.
We shouldn't have to do this. Come on, adults. So, Wardy, is that what you were getting at? Infinite contraction expansion.
That's potentially one option, yeah. And I'm just saying that it doesn't preclude the possibility then of what Soundly suggests is mathematically impossible, which is infinite time. Because again, as I was saying, Soundly said.
Did it start by expanding or by contracting? How about that question?
It doesn't matter. I'm saying that the universe was in a state.
What do you say, Soundly?
And existed forever.
We don't need 60-second bloviations for yes and no shit. Soundly, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't think it answers the infinite regression problem.
I don't think it even starts to.
It just shifts it toward eternal pantheism. The thing is, you need a creator to set things on
Why do you babble on when nobody wants to hear what you have to say, man? Nobody here wants to hear you. Nobody. Nobody.
You shouldn't just jump in like that, Lemon, because, yeah.
But Lemon is a child of God.
All right, that's not really necessary either, Chris.
But Jeremy said, right? He said that.
Oh no, guys, please don't do this, man.
Let me just say one thing to Jeremy.
Why do you like to speak? Why isn't Lemon allowed to speak? Why isn't
to whom?
Because there's other people trying to speak. You guys have to wait. Like, there's a conversation going on, then wait a turn so that those people can finish with their thoughts and shit. You guys are jumping on top of them. But I was going to say something to what somebody had just said about the infinite regression or bullshit like that. There's a guy called Roger Penrose, and he has an idea that's not really. I mean, all these ideas, none of them are tested, so they're all just ideas. But his idea was that that the universe, it keeps expanding basically, and if our universe keeps expanding and it has the heat, the what do they call that, the heat death, whichever one's the big freeze, whatever one's the one that freezes. He basically it goes up.
You're right. Go move.
Yeah, it goes up and expands, and then that expansion actually ends up being the same thing as the small space. So it's like the tiny little space that existed at the beginning of the Big Bang. It's indistinguishable from a large, space with all the entropy and stuff.
Fucking. I just think one of the mistakes that religious people make.
Hold on, Tommy.
There was nothing before the Big Bang.
A steady state wasn't a steady
That's
state.
That's what I want to change one comment. It's not fucking end of the world, is it?
Well, I was fucking asking Koso something.
Koso
wasn't Penrose a steady state proponent?
Not currently. I don't think because I just said
right. Must be back in the past. I was mixing up with something.
Yeah, so Jeremy was saying there was nothing before the Big Bang, and nothing came into something. No one's claiming that nothing came into something. It's just an unknown, and just because something's unknown doesn't mean that it's nothing.
In my book, there's a chapter called the Pre-Cosmological Continuum. It has one page on it and one character on that page, and it's a question mark. Period. I can't imagine the hubris of anybody who could think they could possibly define what's going on before that or since that.
I agree.
I mean, come on.
I agree. That's why I wanted to ask Curve a question still, because I respect Curve's opinion on stuff. I want to see where it's coming from. So, Curve, in your understanding of belief itself, do you bring in the human mind into it? And evolution and where we are in our evolutionary process and all that kind of stuff?
I think he's dead. Curve, you there, mate?
No, you made a mistake respecting Curve's opinion.
Hey, Curve,
Curve's a good guy.
Yeah, he's all right. He says
he cracks me up, man.
He's definitely good, man. You know, there's no bullshit with him. There's no fucking fantasy shit. It's just hardcore.
I'll pose it to the room then, and get you guys all opinion on this. Because the way I think about belief itself and understanding itself is, say 1 million years ago, when we were just some form of little mammal, scampering around in the forest, or in the savannah. Would it be possible at that point to have understood this stuff? No, of course not, right? Our brains didn't evolve enough to do basic abstract thinking. And now, if we accept the theory of evolution or the fact of evolution, which I do, we're 3 steps out of the trees, right? We're still just some Homo sapien running around on Earth with a very, very limited brain capacity.
Yeah.
Now, at what point in our evolution does anybody think that we got to the point in our brain capacity that we could understand these questions? There must have been a time for that, right? If we're assuming that we can understand this particular question. And so my question in the room is, when was that?
Can I have a go at this?
Fuck knows.
Yeah.
Anyone, yeah. Just whenever.
So let me ask you this. Assume that you think that even with our primitive brains, that the Pythagorean theorem is like proven definitively as a true thing, right? Like we can definitively and deductively say that the Pythagorean theorem is true and will always be true, right?
Yes. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I can go with that.
So does it stand to reason that things that are self-contradictory would also have the same sort of truth to it? Like, we can say that this is contradictory, that 1 is not equal to 2. Like, if we ever say 1 equals 2, that will always be true, that's false, no matter how smart we get?
Yeah, we defined it that way. Okay, sure, go ahead.
Wait a minute, we defined it that way. Do you think mathematics?
No, I would say, yeah. To answer your direct question, I would say that anything we know to be self-contradictory is always false.
So,
anything we know to be self-contradictory.
Do you think that traversing an infinite amount of time is not self-contradictory?
I don't know.
I don't think it is.
You can never prove it. You can never falsify it. It's infinite.
No, it's just the answer is I don't know, right? And I'm wondering how you think you can know.
Exactly.
And so this doesn't fall in that category of things we can know.
That's my problem with Stanley. He claims to know. His mind is made up.
I'm not actually claiming to know. I'm telling you what I'm convinced of. I've had that stance from the very beginning. I've actually told you that I'm open-minded to any other alternative explanation that actually makes sense to me. I just haven't heard.
But when I bring one up, you then just say no. It doesn't make sense to me.
Right. I'm not saying that it doesn't make. I'm saying that it doesn't make sense. I'm saying that it seems self-evidently contradictory.
Because your mind's made up of your answer is the correct one.
Because you can't travel an infinite distance.
We're right back here again with Broomy. It's unbelievable.
You don't want to have a conversation.
Can I add one thing?
Yeah, in 1 second, man, because you're here too dead right now.
Crying again.
Somebody's echoing.
Echo.
All right.
Calling me close-minded is not a productive part of this conversation.
You gotta mute Sonic.
They're echoing.
Mute Sonic. What the hell?
You guys all stop talking. I'll find out who's echoing. Okay. And then
Sonic torso.
I got it. Yeah, so I don't want to have to mute people either. So that's what I'm saying. So you guys just, like I said before, just police yourself or whatever, so that way that nobody has to come in and mod you. But Brummy, that's a good example of what I'm talking about. Like if they're talking, you can't, even if like you're there, like you're just saying yeah, like even doing that, man, it's like it's hard to hear over people talking over other people. So
I'm actually in the process of being open-minded, asking for an alternative solution to what only seems plausible to me. I'm having a rational conversation with other people, and it's being very productive. I think they're challenging me. I'm trying to think about it. I don't understand why he has to keep coming in here with like that.
I think you're making me a bigger problem than I actually am. I just feel that I'm just trying to point out the inconsistencies in your logic, and you don't like it. Instead of
not pointing out.
Just trying to demonize me. I am though. I'm clearly
not even letting him finish his explanation.
Can we get back on point, guys? Can we get back on point? Right.
Let me add. Can I add something different? Let me add something different. The idea that we're arguing over infinity because people cannot easily understand it. Like if I told you, just bring it back to a ball. If I said I threw a ball and I was like, I took my hand, I wrapped my fingers around it, I picked it up and I threw it. You can easily in your head understand and see and visualize what's happening. With infinity, it's just you can't wrap your head around it. There's no start. What is it, a loop? But if there was a loop, when was the loop put in? And that's why the only thing to me that makes sense is a creator. Because I can see, okay, you have this creator who is like me, but super powerful, and he can do things that I can't fathom, like create a world that I'm living in. But he can't have a beginning, or else that would break down into that non-understanding of infinity. So easily to understand, a God created the time that we live in. That's easy to understand. This whole infinity thing, that's not easy, but maybe we don't understand, or we'll figure something out. Until you have something, you have nothing.
Yeah, I'm open to
exactly. I agree. We have nothing.
I'm open to the idea that we may, at some point, like understand a way to make this self-consistent and plausible. But right now, from my perspective, I can only say that it seems self-contradictory to me, and so I don't understand why anybody would be mad at that. That's the whole thing. I think it's self-contradictory, and I can't see an alternative. I'm asking people to give me an alternative, and I still haven't seen one.
No,
So,
I'd like to try and give you one if you want. I'd like to try and give you one.
Why?
If the anything is, it's going to be hard to give you an alternative when your mind is already made up that your one is the concrete one.
Here we go again. Never mind.
No, look, I'm just trying to have a conversation. You're taking offensive.
My mind is not made up. I'm actively in the process of asking for alternatives.
And I just said I would willing to try and give you one, but
you didn't give him an alternative. You just said his mind was made up. So don't tell him what his mind is. Give him the alternative so he can consider it.
It wasn't created, and
you don't have one.
This is the alternative.
The point is you don't have one.
This is the alternative. Are you still going to let me talk? Can I give you one?
What's your alternative? Give us your alternative. Not that his mind is made up.
His one is that God made everything. Yeah. The alternative is. You let me talk or what? Are you actually going to let me talk?
Just spit it out.
Fuck's sake. So, if God created everything, right? That's what you assume. Then there was nothing that created God. It's the same thing that everything could just exist naturally without the creation of God. The same thing that started, the same thing that you're saying that God made everything is the same thing.
Okay, you're not giving us anything. You didn't give us anything. You didn't give us an alternative. You just questioned. Hold on. Are you gonna let me finish? You didn't give us an alternative. You just questioned the infinity fallacy of God. So are you going to give us something, or are you just going to ask a question?
I know. I'll give him an equivalent to his own one.
No. I want you alternative.
You sit there.
Don't be like, well, God, where did God?
Listen,
give us the alternative.
But Remy, if I may,
thank you very much. Thank you very much, Joshua. He was talking all over me. He wasn't allowing to the conversation.
You may not, Lemon. You may not.
There is nothing that separates.
You may not, Lemon.
Philosophy contradiction because
you got anyways, right? Because the if I may means nothing to you.
I
want to hear what Ronnie was saying.
Creation, because the creator has to create something from nothing. So that would make a creator even more likely to separate something from nothing, would it not?
First of all, I apologise, Sandy. Probably was a bit too much down your throat, right? Just experienced a bit myself. It's not nice. You can't get your point across. Same point. That you're saying that God can exist and therefore He's the reason that everything started. I'm just saying it's equivalent that if He who starts without any reason can also doesn't have to be God. It can also just be. It just is. Life is its way of experience itself. It always has been. It always will be. There was no start.
Nothing doesn't exist. Nothing doesn't exist. Something exists. Something and nothing. That's a logical contradiction. Creation.
Me and Ronnie are trying to have a conversation and limits to it.
All right,
I mean, that's a logical contradiction.
Okay.
Fine, let them finish. Let them finish with the conversation, man. Because
let me make my one point here. Okay. I don't. So the assumption in this case is that the universe just started itself, but there, in my opinion, there would have to be a conscious decision to start to turn nothing into something. Like something had to decide we're going to have a cause.
I don't think it's fair to assume that something had to have made it, had to have created it. I think when you're assuming that it has to be, because you're creating a parameters where nothing out, no other reason it could ever exist, then you're in parameters of like this has to be the answer. Whereas myself, I feel like the very thing that you're calling God.
So what you would have to do is the alternative is that there's
you really aren't. I agree with you, but you're not helping.
The alternative is to say that there's a natural explanation that's for the universe starting itself, and then it just steps back one step to, well, what created the nature that caused that?
We covered that part too now.
Itself.
Let me get a crack. Let me get this input. I think it's a fallacious request because you're asking for an unfounded alternative to an already unfounded assertion.
Yep. That's a better way of saying it.
I like it when people speak plain English instead of saying shit like that, to be honest.
Well, the problem
with do you want to do plain English?
Yeah, well, I can put it in plain English.
I
can put it in plain English. You're saying that nothing can cause something. That's what you're saying.
I'm sorry. Are you saying I didn't use plain English?
Yeah, use plain English. Go ahead.
It's not an unknown. Sorry.
Dude, please, can you stop?
Very sorry.
I don't have bullshit to counter your bullshit.
Okay, well, I haven't heard a plausible explanation for how a nothingness can become something.
You're asking for something plausible when you did not offer anything plausible.
Sorry,
you're asking for something unfounded, which it can only be unfounded to match what you have already unfounded.
It's not an unknown. It's an unknown. It's not nothing. It's just an unknown.
Yeah.
That's the difference. You can't just say nothing.
You want me to match your unknown with an alternative unknown.
Eventually, we have to go far enough back that there is nothing that.
No, that's where you're wrong. It's an unknown
premise.
It's an unknown. Before the Big Bang, it's an unknown.
Things to exist. Time has to exist, so that you run into the same exact problem.
Yeah. Maybe you should explain it to your fellow flat earthers.
Look, let me say this one more time. It's an unknown. Before the Big Bang, it's an unknown. It's unknown.
That's a nonsensical statement, actually. You can't say before time.
Well, to give him his explanation that he's looking for, that I have to go there because he's saying before the Big Bang there was nothing. I'm not saying nothing. It's an unknown before that moment. Everything's unknown before that. So
there could be a supersedent to
we assume
existence.
We as humans have imperfect language. I agree with that. So saying before time does sound nonsensical, but it conveys an idea that isn't nonsensical. That time had to have started. Time itself had to have been created.
Well, if you're saying that God could exist outside of space-time, that leads to the possibility that something else could also exist outside space-time. Something that could be a precursor to our localized space-time.
There's a really weird, logical contradiction that I don't understand here. Is that why do you presume that time has to have a beginning? Soundly,
because I cannot understand infinite regression.
But is that just a limitation in your understanding?
Could be, yeah. Could be.
So it might be that actually time could be infinite, and
no, I think there would have to be a separate explanation. I think infinite regression is definitely self-contradictory, and it will be forever. But there might be another explanation that we haven't thought of yet.
So where's the contradiction?
Why do you think that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we cannot traverse an infinite amount of time.
But that's just a limit in your understanding, right?
No.
Exactly.
No.
You're basically saying time can't go forever because we can't comprehend it. Well, okay, great. But that doesn't mean that it can't be possible. It just means that we haven't, like somebody was pointing out earlier, we're barely out of the ooze, We've only just stopped climbing up trees or whatever and then started,
Let me put it to you in a different way that's less absolute sounding. Okay, let me put it to you from my perspective. My perspective is that infinite regression is self-contradictory. There may be a third alternative between infinite regression and a creator. There may be a third alternative that we haven't thought of yet. That's what I'm leaving open to. Yeah, okay, that's a possibility.
We see.
Okay, what premises of infinite regression are self-contradictory?
You just can't. You cannot traverse an infinite amount of time in the past. It's just basic mathematical logic. I mean, this is like axiomatic, really.
No.
Okay, what prevents it?
It's not. Wait, axiomatic but not mean self-contradictory then. Axiom cannot be. They're just assumptions, right? So you need another word, I guess.
Well, it's
self-contradictory is the conclusion of most of one or more or two or more premises, right? That's the only way you can get to self-contradiction. What are your premises?
1 equals 2 is self-contradictory.
That has nothing to do with infinite time.
A is not equal to A equals not A. Self-contradictory. That's one premise. It's self-contradictory.
Okay, now let's do the problem at hand. You said infinite time is self-contradictory.
Right.
Let's hear the syllogism.
Right. So I believe it's A, not A. I think that's the problem.
But how can you make
but that's
statement?
That's not it, right? You're just making put a sentence together, a syllogism with the term infinite regression in there, or infinite time, that we can evaluate for its logic.
What are you're asking me for a logical statement that's self-contradictory that uses the words infinite regression?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a reasonable challenge. I'll have to think about that.
I just think people make the mistake of saying nothing came from something, and no one ever says that. And I never think that nothing came from something. I just think that an unknown was before.
You admit it's something that is the God, Brummy. You just don't dare call it.
The philosophical problem.
You're certain that's God, though. That's the difference.
No, I'm saying that's what God means. Yeah. The existence, the creation happening, you existing, you being able to argue that it doesn't exist. That is God.
The problem is you're using blocks of time with definite beginnings and ends, like years that we have currently, to regress time beginning without an end. That's a philosophical contradiction, because you're regressing back with depth units that have a beginning and an end to something that has no beginning and no end. That is a philosophical contradiction.
Everything we know about reality, you go back to the singularity. Before that is an unknown, and nobody ever says that nothing came into something. That's your misconception, saying that.
That's actually very good, and what he said is correct, and that is the logical statement. You're saying your statement is you can reach an infinite amount of time by progressing a finite amount of steps. Like, that's what you're saying. Steps that are finite. You can use steps that are finite to reach an infinite amount of time. That's what you're saying.
Who, me?
Well, I think that's what the self-contradiction is, what I'm saying.
I can't. I mean, that's what other people are saying. They're saying that nothing came into something, and I think they're already assuming that there was nothing at the start. They're assuming. So when they assume there's nothing, then it's already coming from a flawed position. Person myself, I think it's an unknown, and to claim that it's a nothing or it's a something or whatever you're trying to claim, you're already making a false claim from the beginning. You're a false part.
If something exists, it had to begin to exist. Its existence itself requires that the time is there.
You're asserting that it has to. You're already making your mind up. That's an assumption. You're asserting that it has to. Therefore, your next step is going to be creation. That's why you jump to creation, because you're asserting it has to start.
Okay, stop. Oh God, it's just.
I'm sorry.
We're bike shedding about how words are being used, and I'm trying to avoid all of that as much as possible. I don't want to care about how people are using words or the nuances of what the word could mean. How about you argue about what I do mean? And what I do mean is that it doesn't make sense. It seems axiomatic to me, in axiomatic meaning that it's just self-evident truth that a thing cannot exist outside of time. Like a physical thing cannot exist outside of time. Rules.
But you're claiming that God exists outside of space.
Yeah, people claim to talk to things outside of time and space, and that was the first question I asked at the start.
Again, see, now we're debating the word thing instead of talking about what I actually mean by that. Physical substance cannot exist outside of time. That's what we claim.
Okay. Physical substance can't exist. Well, we don't know because we could never go there.
But other things other than physical substance can exist outside of space-time.
Well, that's why you need to have a change from the way things are now to the way they were back then. That's where
debating the word "it."
It's like when you're making cement. When you make cement, until you put them compounds together, it's not cement until you mix the compounds, is it? So,
can someone just tag Brummy out of this conversation?
That's a horrible argument, man. It's a horrible argument.
Stuff that made the universe.
That's a horrible argument.
It's the start of a good argument. It's the start of a good argument because we're assuming things now are the way they were in the past. They may not have been. Look at the flow of time. We're assuming time flowed the same way now as it does back then. That's not the case. If you get in a rush, time appears to slow down. is just processing power. The processing power reality relative to the body processing what's going on. It's a number of processes that flow in a certain way. If you're in a higher spiritual realm, a whole lot more processes are jam-packed into the same amount of time, all the way up to God, where there's little to no separation, if you want to go Neoplatonic, with divine simplicity. So we're talking about a realm where there is no separation between cause and effects, because everything is highly energetic with no decay, with little separation. As you get further down, more separation. The cause is more separated from the effect, because there's less energy and much more energy lost.
You're right, yeah, you're right. But
are you not conversing?
Approaching a point.
He's right, though.
If you want time to flow differently, get a different body with better processing power. Go to a reality where more events happen in the same unit of time. Get a different spirit that can handle processing power, like God or an angel.
I have no idea where you're coming from on this one.
Just boring.
I just think the stuff that makes the universe, right? The chemicals or whatever it is that's made the universe, once it mixes and it becomes what we know as time and space, I think we can say that the chemicals before the time and space, we can't identify them. You know what I mean? To say that it's nothing is just...
You have to recognize the contradiction in that statement right there, right? Before time? Come on, man. You have to recognize that contradiction, right? Before time.
You can't say before time. There is no
before time. You cannot say that.
We just had this conversation.
The way that we're
before the Big Bang, you know what I mean?
I give you a pass on before time, because we can't explain what we're trying to say without using the word before.
Time doesn't flow this way in all realms. In other realms, there's more processing power. More events can be jam-packed into the same time because things flow differently there, so time is different.
There's no such thing.
There's no reason to say what you just said.
Beginning or no?
And making time appear to pass differently. It's different processing power right there in our own realm. In spiritual realms, when people die, they say it felt like 100 years.
Are you almost done?
The logical contradictions. All these logical contradictions that you people are spouting right now is meaningless.
But you're assuming time passes now as it does in other places. That's wrong. Things may be very different in another realm.
Can we really not?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
logical contradictions spew out of your mouth right now, Lemon.
You haven't even stated what the logical contradiction is. What's the logical contradiction then?
What other places you live under a dome on a flat Earth?
You can't state what the logical contradiction is.
Lemon. I don't know anything that you said contradictory. What you said was just made up. There's no reason to say what you said. There's nothing.
Adrenaline shows a different passage of time, and the near-death experience is a different passage of time.
I do have to agree. It sounded like a string of words that put together made a sentence that didn't actually convey any meaning.
Yes.
I just said that time passes differently in other realms of existence. Time doesn't pass the same as it does here. That's all. There's different processing power in different realms. Different amounts of events flow in the same amount of time. That's all.
We don't know any of those things because we've never observed anything outside of this realm.
Let me just address this logical contradiction from Lemon. The fact that I called it a logical contradiction and you asked me to define it means you didn't know the contradiction to begin with, right?
You can't
That's
state it,
the
dude.
logical fallacy.
State it though.
Oh, hang on.
So state it.
If he interrupts me again,
to it, Davros, just get to it. The logical.
10 seconds, Dad. Let's go.
You're buying time, dude. I'm gonna shut up.
He's got 10 seconds.
The logical contradiction was the fact that you said time flows in different directions. It only goes one fucking way.
No, I didn't say that. I say time flows differently. You have a slow flow of the river, a faster flow of the river, and when you get up to God with divine simplicity, no flow at all.
Yeah, but you said in different basically in different situations, in different realms, it flows differently. No, it all flows in the same fucking direction, mate.
Forward, but it can flow at a different rate.
Are you seriously arguing with Lemon?
Into the same section of the river.
You're backpedaling.
All this time, you're still arguing with Lemon.
I just said it flows differently. It can still flow forward, just differently.
It's insane to argue with the insane. Don't you agree, Davros?
You just misinterpreted Davros, and then when I corrected the record, you wanted to come on it. Time flows forward, but it flows forward at a different rate depending on the realm you're in. Because more events are jam-packed into the same amount of time because of different power in the realm.
No,
you just made this contradiction happen at the same time.
Flows in all of them.
I don't know why
he does all this stuff.
Come on, man.
Don't question
him.
You just made the contradiction
problem is you're trying to make everything else flow the same as it does in this materialistic realm. That's a fallacy. There are other places where this is not.
Your time was there, okay? Now someone else is going to speak. You can't just keep shouting over people.
Oh, he can and he will.
Opinions about other quote-unquote realms is contradictory because you've never observed another realm, quote-unquote.
I haven't died yet, but other people have, and they've astral projected and gone to other realms. There's testimony of other people. It's testimony that you reject, but other people talk about this stuff.
Is time eternal? What are we? Matter and energy, have they always existed in some form or another? Time.
We don't know.
What do you do with this?
You only have to separate cause and effect if the effect is less energetic than the cause. That's the only time you need inspiration.
Not helpful in any way.
There's not much room to let Lemon speak. You know, he had a lot obviously to say.
The best evidence we have so far demonstrates that energy and mass are both eternal, and interchangeable.
I was going to say
the best evidence we have right now at this point in time.
Suggest otherwise.
But that evidence is not conclusive, so why do we even want to put that forward as something?
Well,
Just
he's
say
asking
we don't know.
what is. That was the question, and that was, I think, the best answer we can get.
Yeah, obviously that's the best. If you had to go one way or the other, or lean one way or the other, it would seem most reasonable to lean that way for sure, because there's no reason not to think that.
If you have to, I say you don't have to.
Well, the tentative position, based on the
philosophy, wise thinking, a philosophy here to power future exploration to see if we're right, wrong, or whatever, even though we don't know currently.
Shut up ever, Willie.
First.
Ever.
He's potato.
That's God, shit.
I mean, say stuff as long as you make it brief and it's on topic. Okay?
I'm sorry, my processing power is very high. You're gonna have to keep up with the time. I'm sorry.
That's how it's gonna work. You just have to keep on topic, and then also just very briefly, and that way people's complaints won't be valid against you. Okay.
You're gonna need a new brain with higher processing power, or a spirit that can key into my processing power.
We're not gonna keep talking.
None of those words were on topic.
You're going to need a new physical brain, virtual energy source.
Did he say physical brain?
I'm agnostic. I don't know.
You have muting power, right?
That means I've got a God story too. That's what you're saying.
If you want higher processing power at a different rate, go to another realm.
So are we computers now?
In a way, yes.
You're really arguing with them.
Breathing computers.
Yes.
I mean, I don't want to validate anything that Lemon's saying here, but current string theorists and stuff say they talk about something like 24 different dimensions, and maybe that's another way of looking at it. And maybe what we observe in the 4 dimensions that we actually function in, there's some impact with one of those other dimensions that causes the creation and destruction of universes. So maybe that's another explanation.
It's possible.
Could be.
It has nothing to do with brain power, though, right?
It's got nothing to do with brain power, no.
Yeah.
Or everything to do with brain power.
The energetic realm that you're in can make different energetic matter. Higher energetic matter with higher bodies can be made in different processing power. So indirectly, it would lead to a brain with a different type of working and a different type of processing power if you got a body from another realm.
There's no way. I don't get away with half the shit that Lemon gets away with. Energetic.
True, you don't. Nobody does.
Talking at the same time as him.
Dude, we all talk our truths in different ways.
Well, controlling them, Kershaw, when he goes on like that.
I was about to control you because he was being fine. He was just responding. He wasn't doing anything wrong just now. He's just responding. If he says something brief, it's on topic, there's nothing wrong with that. If you're speaking up to talk over somebody just to complain, there's something wrong with that. So just consider that.
Wow. Does anyone understand that Lemon was saying, though? Yeah, well, I don't think that was relevant to the topic. What Lemon was on about.
All you guys that are against God have got misconceptions about God because you've been indoctrinated by Abrahamic faith projection. So you're not seeing what it is properly. You're just thinking it's a father in the sky that those people talk about and Jesus. And I don't believe in all that silly stuff. But you're not thinking about what God actually means.
Logical foundation for these beliefs, Don.
What?
I'll try to fill in for Dross CB. Tell us about your epistemological foundations for these beliefs. I need at least 30 minutes. 30-minute intro.
I watched lots of documentaries on the occult. I read the Kabbalion Hermetics. Yeah.
Documentaries on YouTube about the occult.
Yeah. And lots of thinking, obviously. But I mean, that was what.
In other words,
you with the thinking.
In other words, he shoved a Ouija board up his ass.
So I got a wider conception of God, and the Abrahamic faith no longer put me off, and I could still acknowledge the gap, the divine gap, without worrying that I'm believing a silly Christian story about a father in the sky. You know,
that sentiment right there is exactly why
I'm thinking about this like this.
Don, the long and short is you're right, they're wrong. Right? They're all wrong, you're right.
Yeah, of course.
Tell us about that, Todd.
The atheists are definitely wrong.
Yeah. Everybody's wrong, you're right, end of story, right? That's what we get from what you're saying?
They acknowledge.
What am I missing? You're wrong. They're wrong, you're right. What else am I missing?
The first cause of all of it.
They're wrong, you're right. What else am I missing?
Holy shit, dude, we heard you.
Thank you.
I think this is the point I was trying to bring up earlier. Whenever Rex was just trying to jump to Christianity, it's really easy to jump to Christianity and just bag on it. I mean, that's pretty normal. But let's just start off with the very first step, and the very first step is acknowledging that there had to be an initial cause, and you can call it whatever you want to call it. I call it God. I mean, that's the first step.
Your very first step is a necessary course in apologetics. I mean, you can't get to where you actually are without laying a foundation of apologetics, which is simply all you've been doing. I mean, you can't possibly give me.
He's an
actual okay. There's absolutely no need to cut in. There's no need to cut in, Don.
Well,
I don't. You don't need a foundation of apologetics. This is the foundation of apologetics.
Yeah,
that's what I'm trying. No. I'm actually. I'm counter arguing against you here. This is the foundation of apologetics. You don't need to know anything about apologetics whatsoever to start here.
Then stop apologizing.
Who's apologizing?
That's what apologetics is. You're apologizing for all the fallacies that come from religion.
Apologize.
Haven't apologized for anything.
And when you're done,
they created the idea for this COVID-19 hoax. Chemo, can you tell us your beliefs about the COVID-19 hoax that you believe is faked by 5G or some shit? Can you tell us more about that, please? All right, resume conversation.
Well, the thing is, there are wavelengths of light that
not you.
With what?
You can hang out with me tonight.
Yeah.
There are wavelengths.
Thumbnail: the Spurt world.
Well, there are wavelengths of light that we can't see or interact with. It would be the same with our other senses. There are things that we can touch and we can't touch that are still there that we can interact with given the right condition. So there's a world all around us that we can't touch and interact with that would be deemed spiritual. Another layer of reality, if you will, that passes right through us and right around us unnoticed.
Yeah, but how do you know that?
With the visible wavelength of light. With that logic I just gave you, there's some stuff that we can see, some stuff that we can't see that's still there, even with the visible electromagnetic spectrum.
If you can't see it, how do you know it's there?
The way that it chooses to interact with the stuff that we can see.
You mean you can detect things? You can detect things scientifically. That does not make it not physical.
Science realm typically. Well, science has not gone to the other realm.
Well, I think that Sandy's explanation does sound quite plausible. Like, it does sound logical. I can see why someone would think that. And I just don't think that it's safe to assume that everything had to come from nothing. I just think that when you make that assumption that there was nothing and then it had to be something, then it makes logical sense to insert that it must have been created. But I don't think that was. I never think there was never nothing, because we live in a something. Because we live in a world where there's something, there always has and always will be something, and there could never have been nothing because we have something.
Okay, I'm gonna fucking lose my mind. Jesus
the body.
Christ. Say something and nothing one more time.
Well, the body, the realm, and the spirit have to match. If you have all this processing power and you're in a lower realm, which only needs one, unit of processing power, and you have like 100, and you can think even faster than the stuff around you, it's going to be torture, because everything will just feel like it's slowing by you. But if you're in a realm where you're not there, things are going to pass by you so fast, you're not even going to be able to interact. So there needs to be a match.
Except you have no evidence for any of that. So why should I even bother listening to
you? Adrenaline makes time appear to slow down because your processing power increases because of the adrenaline. But that's not the way that your body is made to be.
Is physical.
On the basis that it's a nonsensical statement to mention before time, you can always then therefore assume that the universe always existed.
Before time as we know it, with the flow of events in this realm that we're used to. There are other realms where time flows quite differently.
No, they're not. No, you're logically fallacying your way through this whole conversation just to promote some conceptual idea that makes no sense in any form of reality.
There are beings that think a whole lot faster than we, and beings in a realm where a whole lot more stuff can happen energetically at the same time down here. That changes the ball game entirely. Entirely.
Now, how do you know any of that?
Yeah, there you go,
experiences and adrenaline is more than enough to make this woo. More than enough.
Yeah. Rex, for calling it woo. See, now, sound lady, this is what I've got against magical thinking.
I don't like magical thinking.
In case you were wondering,
that's because you're materialist.
This is the direct
you
result. This is the direct result of believing in immaculate conceptions and motherfuckers walking on water. Enjoy.
That's because you're a left-brain materialist who can only think about things in terms of this realm here. If you want to limit yourself to this realm, be my guest.
Let's be clear that magical thinking is not the same as spiritual thinking. They're not
Guess
the same.
What? It most
you have to open yourself up to the other realms with the right brain through a dream.
I'm sorry. How did
to another being that experiences stuff in a totally different way?
Was it a spiritual pregnancy or was it magical?
Do you think that we claimed that Mary was walking around and all of a sudden became pregnant? Is that what you think we claim?
Yes.
Well, that's not what we claim.
Explain
what happened.
That God Himself actually made her become pregnant. Like he actually created it. That's not magic. That's different.
Hang on, you just said God, someone who you have no evidence of, actual physical evidence of, created something that you have no evidence of, that impregnated a woman.
I've been arguing this entire time, and I've been explaining to you exactly why I believe that a God exists. So if a God exists, which is what I believe, and He did a physical thing in the world that He created, that's not magical thinking. That's a conclusion.
Yeah,
there's steps that along the way. Magical thinking would be, I drew a symbol on the ground and said some magical incantation, and she became pregnant. That's completely different.
Hang on. I wasn't finished with what I was trying to say.
Because
like I said, I went to Catholic schools. I learnt all this crap, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is where the fallacy comes in. God, who is not physical, created someone physical to be able to impregnate someone else, which is the fallacy in itself. Because then, what about Joseph? Poor old Joseph. Isn't that adultery by God?
Is it? I don't know. You tell me.
Well, if Mary and Joseph were together and God did something to Mary without Joseph's consent, that's adultery. It doesn't matter about marriage. If you're in a relationship with someone, no. See, this is where you're starting to make the other fallacy